One, it was a brutal storm, with heavy rain completely flooding the drainage ditches. Even the rats living down there crawled out to see what was happening. Hearing heavy footsteps, the terrified rodent quickly scrambled away in fear. Splashing feet ripped through the deep puddles, sending wet mud flying everywhere. A red-haired girl was desperately running to find shelter from the storm. But running was incredibly hard for her because she was carrying an unconscious young woman on her back. Glancing back at her unconscious friend, whose name was Yao Guang, the redhead begged her to hold on, promising she would save her no matter what. She would do absolutely everything in her power, but two armed men were right on their heels. These pursuers were clearly ready to do whatever it took to stop them from escaping. Yet the girls refused to give up, trying their best to get lost in the city streets. Navigating the maze of buildings was almost impossible since they did not know this area at all. Suddenly, the red-haired girl realized with a sinking heart that they had hit a dead end. Climbing the wall was impossible. First of all, she could not see any handholds. And second, her heavy friend was still on her back. She knew they were trapped. Hearing their pursuers right behind them, the girl frantically tried to make a plan. But her mind was spinning. The only thought she could focus on was going up. Somehow she had to climb higher, even if she had no clue how to do it. That was when heavy footsteps echoed right behind her. The enemies were practically on top of them. Realizing how dangerously close they were, she spun around instantly to launch a kick. Right as she kicked, a hand reached out and stopped her midair. The stranger's powerful grip really surprised her, leaving her totally helpless for a moment. Standing before her was a mysterious, dark-haired guy, and honestly, his gaze is chilling. Without any emotion, he remarked that she probably shouldn't kick so high while wearing a skirt. Stepping back, the redhead demanded to know who he was, her voice dripping with venom. Why was he standing in her way, and what was his business in this chase? The young man did not answer. Instead, he slowly started walking closer and closer to her. It truly felt like a ruthless predator taking its sweet time to play with its prey. Before she could even blink, the dark-haired stranger suddenly appeared right in front of her. The redhead stared in sheer disbelief, unable to comprehend how he moved that fast. Completely ignoring her shocked expression, the mysterious man leaned in closer. He gently touched the face of the unconscious girl, Yao Guang. He whispered softly that he had finally found her after 3,000 years. Pulling the girl away, her protective friend barked that she would defend her. She refused to let anyone lay a finger on her, even if she had to die. The stranger sighed, mentioning the year when the 10 shamans of Great Lynch and Mountain scattered. Chaos ruled back then, and he wondered how their descendants fell this low. Hearing those words, the girl's beautiful green eyes suddenly widened in pure shock. Her voice shook as she demanded to know how this complete stranger knew her secrets. But the young man had no time to answer her questions right now. Heavy footsteps and angry voices echoed close behind, belonging to the original hunters. 5 armed thugs had finally caught up, and things were looking incredibly dangerous. To make matters worse, they were all armed to the absolute teeth. Most people would run away immediately rather than face a group like this. But the dark-haired stranger was not intimidated at all, calmly activating his power. Waving his hand to unleash a sudden wave of magic, he menacingly glared at the thugs. He demanded to know who they thought they were to threaten his beloved Yao Guang. Watching him act all high and mighty, the thugs figured he had completely lost his mind. They decided to feed him some lied to cure his stupid delusion. But mere guns did not scare Lin Fei at all. He just calmly closed his eyes. He focused deep on his inner energy, gathering an immense amount of spiritual power. He unleashed this force directly at the thugs, piercing them with a shocking electrical surge. The lightning-fast shock hit them instantly, and just like that, the entire fight was over. Nothing remained of his targets but ash and scorched guns left on the cold asphalt. Only smoldering debris remained of those men, showing off his absolute and truly terrifying power. Watching this terrifying display, Wu Molan wondered who this mysterious master actually was. How could he wield the legendary power of Suki from the ancient Du Palace? She ended up voicing her deep confusion out loud, which only made Lin Fei smirk softly. He said he would gladly share his secrets if she really wanted to know. Slowly, he reached out toward her face, his presence feeling incredibly heavy. A strange, otherworldly flame ignited at his fingertip as he tapped her forehead with it. She tensed up immediately, feeling a strange and foreign energy trying to enter her mind. But the touch felt surprisingly warm and gentle, causing her to relax completely. Vivid visions of prehistoric times suddenly began to flood her mind. His voice echoed, guiding her through the ancient memories of his past. He explained that across the vast multiverse, many knew him as the great immortal sage. The vision shifted, showing a grand warrior blessing a massive army for battle. His voice continued, noting that in other worlds, they called him the Lord of Chaos. Another vision flashed before her, revealing a mighty and absolute ruler on his throne. Countless loyal subjects bowed at his feet in reverence, worshiping him as a god. They whispered prayers to him, calling him the absolute protector and god of the forest. Her mind snapped back. Lin Fei just waited. He looked at her and calmly said she could just call him Lin Fei. Hearing this legendary name, the proud girl instantly dropped down to her knees. She did not even care about scraping her bare skin on the rough asphalt. Respectfully asking for his permission to introduce herself, she revealed her true origin to him. She was a descendant of the Mount Lingen shamans, and her name was Wu Molan. Without saying a word, Lin Fei waved his hand to release another wave of magic. Wu Molan felt the heavy energy shift immediately as the surrounding air began to tremble. His unseen energy gently lifted the unconscious Yao Guang high into the air. The poor girl was totally out cold and could not react to him at all. As he cradled her in his arms, his expression looked incredibly sad to Wu Molan. Gathering his potent magical power once again, the young man prepared to save her. To bring Yao Guang back to her senses, he knew he had to extract the poison. Acting on a strong hunch, his magic quickly located a deadly substance inside her. He realized she had been poisoned by a highly lethal dose of spider venom. Furious that the poor girl had to endure such immense suffering, his dangerous anger flared. He forcefully drew out the toxic fluid and shot it straight into the wall. The disgusting green poison flew forward, propelled by his immense physical power. The sheer force was so insane that the liquid literally punched a hole right through. Pure rage, it was clear that Lin Fei was absolutely furious, especially since he never imagined the very people he saved would target his wife. Unbelievable, the next day, we arrive at the quiet Jia family estate. It was incredibly cozy, but inside, Yao Guang was just waking up. To the bright morning sun shining in her eyes, Yao Guang slowly lifted. Her eyelids, she was shocked to find herself in her own bedroom. Her pursuers had spared her. Then she instantly remembered Milan and began worrying if her friend was safe. In a panic, she leaped. Right out of bed, she started shouting, calling for Milan. Was she still alive? Just then, a mysterious voice spoke up. A dark-haired guy sitting nearby did not even turn around. He calmly pointed out she was still only in her underwear. Yao Guang froze. Blushing, she quickly covered herself up, demanding to know why a stranger was in her room and how he got inside. Just then, Milan burst inside after hearing all the screaming. She explained this gentleman saved them and neutralized the poison. Blushing deeply, Yao Guang asked if she could request him to leave. Despite his help, he shouldn't be seeing her dressed like this. Silence, realizing his wife didn't recognize him, Lin Fei knew. Her memories hadn't returned. It was quite a painful blow. But he understood recovery takes time while she dressed herself. He decided he must find the culprit who dared to poison her. His only clue, traces of Wangju spider venom in her system. Years ago, a man named Qing Yun Tian of the D tribe had begged at his door for 3 whole days to save his clan. Lin Fei spared them. He gifted him that Wangju spider. But he never expected the venom would be used on his wife. Those people founded the Qing clan and partnered with the Bi clan, building corporate empires in Chengdu. When Lin Fei arrived at their office, a hostile guard immediately stopped him, stating this was private property. This belonged to the Qing clan. Outsiders were forbidden. Lin Fei didn't care. He bypassed the security guard at absolutely incredible speed. Stating he had no business with him, the guard stood bewildered, left completely clueless as to how the stranger had moved so fast. He panicked. He immediately radioed in that an intruder was upstairs. But too late, as Lin Fei reached the 46th floor. Guards were waiting. They stared intently as the doors opened. Watch closely. These hostile men were waiting for him with heavy stun batons. Giving these overconfident guys a pretty cold look, Lin Fei stood firm. He warned them. He coldly told them to back off if they valued safety. But as you'd expect, they ignored him and tried to attack. Bad move. In seconds, they were all slammed against the wall. Groaning in pain, they wondered if he was even human. His strength was absolutely unreal. Unhindered, Lin Fei walked on. Heading straight toward the president's main office, the stern boss looked up. Barging in uninvited made her scream, demanding to know who dared enter her room. She ordered him to leave immediately, but he had no intention of complying. Instead, our hero calmly sat down across from her, no hesitation, no warning. He straight up asked if she knew about the deadly Wangu poison. She denied it. She claimed she had no idea what this stranger meant, but she was clearly lying. Under the table, her hand was already tightly gripping a loaded pistol. Leaning back comfortably, the young man made a quiet remark. The Dai people only survived to this day thanks to the spider queen Wangju. He highly doubted her family could be completely clueless about that history. He even named one of her direct ancestors, which instantly pushed her over the edge. Losing her cool, she drew the weapon and openly threatened him. She demanded to know who he was to dare insult her family name. With a gun to his head, Lin Fen just smiled. He mocked her pride in her dying clan. If everyone behaved like her, well, there would be absolutely nothing left of their legacy. She snapped, ready to fire, but a man suddenly snatched her weapon. He carried himself like the true boss of this entire city. Disarmed and defenseless, the girl suddenly looked completely helpless and small. She cried out that her father arrived just in time to stop this disrespectful guest. And then the absolute wildest thing happens. Her powerful father falls to his knees. He begged for permission to introduce himself as the humbled leader of his family. He introduced himself as Qing Fen, head of the Qing family, shocking his daughter. Her proud father kneeling before a stranger, it made no sense. She begged him to stand up, but he ordered her to bow to the great Lin Fen. The furious young lady snapped back that they only bowed to show respect for ancestors. She demanded to know who this man even was to expect such a heavy gesture. Utterly refusing to obey her father, she scoffed in absolute defiance. She turned on her heel and stormed out. Qing Fen sighed at his daughter's disrespect, but our hero didn't care. He had no interest in family squabbles, so he ordered the man to stand. "Tell me what happened with the spider queen Wangju," he commanded. Qing Fen bowed again. He deeply apologized, explaining that his daughter had been spoiled rotten since childhood. She had absolutely no idea about the legendary Lin Fen's true existence. As for the Spider Queen, she was supposed to be sealed deep underground. They kept her in the Yundian cave, but she vanished during last year's ritual. She was just gone. After a brief silence, our hero made a dark guess. She has likely fallen into the scheming hands of the rival Bai family. Talk about a worst-case scenario. This news instantly terrifies him. If his own people failed, could another clan actually subdue the beast? Skipping the question entirely, our hero immediately pressed him with a new demand. He wanted to know about the status of the legendary sacrificial ring. Terrified, Qing Fen asked if that ring could actually control the Spider Queen. He explained it was currently held by the youngest son of Minjiu. The poor boy was recently found unconscious, and the Bai family took action. They formally requested to borrow the ring, claiming they wanted to make an offering. To their ancestors, he never imagined they would abuse this power. When the man asked why these families wanted to control the Spider Queen, our hero suggested they simply wanted to overthrow the clan that oppressed them for nearly 4,000 years. Gritting his teeth in anger, Mr. Qing whispered quietly that those people were the reason his son Ming Yu became completely comatose, nailing. Before the young man once again, the father begged him for help since his son urgently needed saving after being trapped in a poisoned state for over 7 months. Looking at the head of the Qing family, our hero warned that the deadly poison had been ravaging his son for too long and had already reached his soul. Ordinary people could never survive this, but a small chance of salvation still remained. When the man looked at the note Lin Fi handed him, he realized it contained just ordinary medications available at any local pharmacy he had expected to see. Some legendary miracle cure. As he prepared to leave the office, our dark-haired hero told the patriarch to call him the moment he gathered all the necessary ingredients. Meanwhile, another doctor was currently examining a different poison victim, checking her pulse and checking her overall condition. The elderly healer Hua Ming confidently reported that the poison was completely neutralized. He assumed his own secret medicine had done the trick. Laughing, Yao Guang thanked him for his help, claiming she returned to life solely because of him. Her friend was furious, knowing the girl was only alive because of Lin Fi. Handing the old doctor a bank card, the lady announced it held 80 million as her token of gratitude for saving her life. The elderly healer knew full well his medicine was completely useless against the Wangju poison, but he gladly took the money to fund his son. He kept quiet about his fraud. Mullen tried to warn her friend that the old man's medicine had absolutely nothing to do with her cure, but she wasn't even allowed to finish. Hua Ming unleashed his spiritual pressure, demanding to know if she actually dared to doubt his legendary medical skills like that. Terrified, Mullen immediately backed down, claiming she would never doubt this elderly master's reputation, insisting his medicine had indeed neutralized the threat completely. Meanwhile, our hero finished up his business at the Qing family office and was walking peacefully through the bustling city streets when an urgent phone call interrupted his quiet walk. It was Mullen calling to explain the situation with the shameless elderly doctor. He was instantly furious. Because nobody gets to swindle his wife, this fraud is about to learn a lesson. Clutching his phone in rage, Lin Fi muttered that Dr. Hua Ming could have taken the cash if he showed some respect, but he chose deceit instead. Meanwhile, the greedy healer had arrived at a new house call, finding Mr. Jai terminally ill. The cancer had already spread to his bones, leaving him near death. The family was desperate. A young man named Jai Zhongwei brought his weak father to meet the doctor, hoping the rumors of his miraculous cure were true. Hearing this praise, the old fraud desperately tried to brainstorm a clever lie. He never expected rumors of his fake success to travel this fast. Before he could respond, a cold voice rang out through the courtyard. Standing there with a calm, dangerous glare was none other than Lin Fi. Lin Fi insisted that the old healer had no chance of curing cancer. He could not even handle basic poisoning, knowing absolutely nothing about the deadly Wangju poison. Angered, the wealthy client bringing his sick father ordered his guards to drag this crazy kid out for disrupting the session. They lunged forward instantly, eager to throw the uninvited guest out. The trained fighters took up combat stances, ready to teach him a lesson. Throwing heavy punches, they tried to show off their martial arts skills. But dodging these slow and clumsy attacks was incredibly easy for our hero. With effortless grace, he moved his hands in a swift, blur-like motion and precisely struck the vital pressure points located right on their forearms. This quick surgical move paid off instantly. Now, the muscular guards collapsed to the ground, writhing in agonizing pain they could not explain. They had no idea how a mere boy possessed such terrifying precision. The entire courtyard stood frozen in shock, including the old healer, Hua Ming. He realized his profitable medical scam might finally be exposed, sensing danger. Hua Ming demanded to know who this arrogant brat was to disrupt his clinic. He spat threats, warning the intruder that he would pay a heavy price. But Lin Fei was completely unfazed, knowing a fraud has no right to demand anything. This blunt truth sent a cold shiver down the old doctor's spine. Taking a seat, Lin Fei calmly reminded him of his family's glorious past, when his honorable ancestor was celebrated as a true savior of medicine, founding a legendary lineage of noble healers. Who would have thought that the modern Hua family would turn into greedy, soulless swindlers? Hearing this insult, the healer's hot-headed grandson, a youth named Hao Chong, stepped forward, ready to defend his grandfather's tarnished name. He was furious that a stranger dared to slander their family business. However, the terminally ill old man with cancer asked Lin Fei a serious question, wondering if the boy knew that one word from him could ruin lives. Locking eyes with the dying elder, Lin Fei gave a calm smile. He chuckled, saying he knew exactly who was standing there, the grandfather of his future daughter-in-law. This sudden revelation left the elderly patient completely stunned and speechless. He simply stared in silence, unable to process what he just heard. Lin Fei then confidently addressed the crowd again, stating quite clearly that while the fake doctor could not cure cancer, he easily could. Hearing this, Hua Ming's grandson laughed, mocking him as a delusional fraud. He scoffed and demanded the boy prove his claims right then and there. But Lin Fei was not one for empty words. He instantly channeled his qi, unleashing a surge of warm energy to show he was the real deal. Using sheer mental power, he slowly levitated a heavy leather toolkit apron straight into the air. The bag holding all his acupuncture needles floated directly into his open hand. Everyone held their breath, watching his hands in absolute, stunned silence. Many still suspected this was a cheap trick, a theatrical illusion to deceive them. But with another flick of his wrist, several long silver needles flew out. The elderly patient gasped in horror as 3 glowing needles flew forward. They sank directly into his head and shoulder, leaving him completely terrified. Everyone froze, completely unsure of what to expect next. Healer Hua Ming's eyes bulged with shock because this legendary acupuncture style was only ever found in ancient myths. His grandfather Huachuo claimed he only saw a true sage perform it once. The needles hit the pressure points. The old man coughed violently, spitting up a foul, pitch-black liquid. His terrified son quickly rushed forward to help his father in any way he could, but it was useless. He just stood there completely frozen, having absolutely no idea what to do. Lin Fei calmly continued the treatment, telling them not to worry at all, because this foul sludge was actually the dead cancer cells being forced out. When Lin Fei told the doctor to check the pulse, the man gasped. The old man was completely fine, his late-stage terminal liver cancer was entirely cured. Hua Ming stood there in utter disbelief, while his grandson muttered in pure horror, could a mere charlatan really do this? The cured elderly gentleman bowed deeply, thanking the young master for saving his life, since he had honestly believed that his condition was completely hopeless. But Lin Fei was not done, summoning the glowing green poison in his hand. He challenged Hua Ming to prove his skills by neutralizing it right now. Instantly, he sent his magical energy surging straight ahead, launching the highly toxic green stream directly across the room. It splashed straight onto Hua Ming's grandson, who stood right beside his grandfather. Talk about instant karma. The boy was paralyzed as his veins swelled. His hands contorted with painful spasms, and thick drool dripped from his mouth. Terrified, the old doctor immediately confessed that he was completely helpless here. Sobbing in regret, he admitted that pure greed had totally blinded him, forcing him to lie to his very own patients. Now, he desperately begged Lin Fei to spare the innocent boy, admitting it was his own selfish mistake. He only wanted to profit from the girl's cure. Trembling, he held out the card from Yao Guang, confessing again that he could never cure spider venom. In a flash, the black card flew directly into Lin Fei's hand. He refused to let anyone think he was exploiting his wife's illness, turning away. The young man warned them that doctors must always protect human lives. If they lose their way, they only bring ruin to this world. Handing the cash card to the gentleman, Lin Fei asked him to return it to Yao Guang, adding that it would be great if they stopped labeling people as completely crazy. The man was deeply grateful. He quickly handed Lin Fei his business card, begging him to keep it. His cured father also smiled, noting that if simple thanks were not enough, they could offer him something far more precious. After considering it, Lin Fei accepted the card, saying that in that case, he would hand it over to Yao Guang, who had been pretty hostile toward him. Huiming suddenly interrupted, admitting that he had absolutely no idea how Lin Fei had mastered this godly acupuncture technique, wondering if he had met the legendary sage his ancestor spoke of, turning his gaze toward the doctor. Lin Fei calmly revealed that he was that very sage. Hearing this, Huiming collapsed to the floor and bowed frantically, begging forgiveness for his terrible arrogance earlier. Honestly, the young master did not care about his petty pride. Lin Fei was not listening to this man at all, completely lost in his own thoughts. Yao Guang's father had behaved quite nobly. Finally, he decided that these people should know his name, especially since he was determined to link his fate to this gentleman's daughter. The Yao Guang family was incredibly pleased that this young man had taken their business card, and the girl's father was very pleased that his daughter had managed to attract the attention of such a respectful man. The old man smiled contentedly, his dreams already drifting far away to a time when this man would become the son-in-law of the Gu family. Not wanting to waste any time, Lin Fei headed straight to the Gu family corporation to meet the girl. Based on his information, Yao Guang should have been at the company right now, so he decided to head over and give her his business card. He stepped inside the building, and Wuling spotted him immediately, looking a bit worried. She said that Lin Fei had arrived just in time. The girl's green eyes glowed with deep anxiety, which was especially noticeable when she began to explain that someone was bothering her. At that moment, a blonde-haired young man entered Yao Guang's office and persistently asked if the girl was busy, even though he could clearly see she was working. Without waiting for an answer, the blonde man said he wanted to invite the young lady to dinner and would be deeply pleased if she would do him the honor. Pulling her hand away from the guy, the young woman said she already had plans for the evening. She understood this man was trying to get her attention, but she did not want to give in to his annoying flirting. At that moment, Lin Fei entered the room, waving cheerfully at the girl, asking if she could spare a minute of her time. Noticing how flustered Yao Guang was, the blonde man began bombarding her with rapid questions about who this guy was and why she was reacting like this. In a highly haughty tone, the guy demanded to know which department this employee belonged to and what position he held. He was completely outraged that he was not even wearing a badge during work hours. Completely ignoring the fair-haired man, Lin Fei approached the girl and asked with a smile if she would like to have dinner with him after work. This casual disrespect annoyed the blonde guy so much that he loudly ordered this random stranger to be thrown out of the office. Immediately, hearing the call, two massive security guards immediately burst into the office, looking very imposing. These guys were clearly good at their jobs, but very soon they were violently flung right out of the room. With a loud whoosh, their bodies slamming painfully against the hard walls. This was all because of Lin Fei, who had decided to clearly demonstrate his superior strength, so the blond man would never open mouth again. The rich kid was shocked, having never seen anyone do this. After all, he had never once seen anyone handle his highly trained bodyguards. The fair-haired fool did not even have time to blink before Lin Fei closed in on him, crossing the close distance instantly to swing his arm. The slap was so incredibly hard that the cocky rich kid was sent flying sideways, losing both his expensive sunglasses and his dignity. Holding his swollen cheek, he demanded how this boy dared to lay a hand on him, threatening to call Uncle Gu. Staring down at this pathetic rich boy, our hero calmly answered him. He casually mentioned he was actually just about to call Jai Chunwei to discuss some joint business. Then he slammed down the prestigious personal card that Yao Guang's father had given him. He demanded to know why they let this trash into their elite circle. The moment the blonde punk saw the purple and gold card, he completely froze in place. He knew Uncle G only gave those cards to superiors. It meant Lin Fei was on a completely different level, instantly making him feel worthless. Tears streaming down, he wondered what kind of powerful man stood before him. Scrambling to his feet, the blonde guy begged for mercy, admitting his massive mistake. He failed to recognize a truly legendary guest. This blonde punk had assumed Lin Fei was just some low-level employee. Lin Fei had zero interest in this trash and ordered him to get lost. The terrified guy grabbed the golden opportunity to escape and bolted away as fast as possible. Although the spoiled rich kid felt incredibly offended, he was smart enough to stay quiet. Lin Fei could easily call the CEO directly with a single phone call. Meanwhile, the scene transitions to a 5-star luxury hotel named Uzilian. Yao Guang was absolutely stunned that he had actually brought her to such a place. She asked why they couldn't just eat at a simple, cozy local cafe instead. But for Lin Fei, spending this kind of money was like dropping loose pocket change. He certainly did not look incredibly wealthy. She silently assumed he must be part of some secret wealthy elite. Once they were seated at their table, Lin Fei casually placed a mysterious black card before her. He explained it held the massive fortune that Dr. Hua Ming had stolen by fraud. The shocking revelation left the young lady completely stunned and full of deep suspicion. She wondered how he actually knew her father and managed to take back this card. She knew that card had to be returned immediately. Seeing 1,000 burning questions swirling in her head, Lin Fei decided to explain. He confirmed that he did indeed know her father and had met him a few times. But this simple explanation only raised even more massive questions in her mind. How on earth did he get her father's card? Not wanting to waste another second, Lin Fei picked up the menu to order dinner. He didn't just bring her here to talk, he was actually starving. Flipping through the pages, he casually mentioned a truly mind-blowing fact. He casually claimed he had completely cured Yao Guang's grandfather of his long-term liver cancer. After dinner, the two of them headed straight to the Grand Ji family estate. Lin Fei wanted to escort his girlfriend home safely. To their surprise, the entire family had already lined up outside to warmly greet them. Yao Guang's family head, his wife, and the healed grandfather were all waiting. The old man was absolutely thrilled to see the legendary healer Lin Fei again. Smiling warmly, Lin Fei said they shouldn't have gone to all this trouble for him. Meanwhile, the young lady stood there completely baffled, wondering what on earth was happening. The grandfather kept thanking Lin Fei before eagerly offering him a cup of fine tea. This excited old man was deeply passionate about the elegant art of traditional tea ceremonies. While they chatted, Yao Guang quietly pulled her father aside for answers. She insisted Lin Fei was nothing but a clever fraud. But her father firmly shut her down, insisting every single word was absolutely real. He asked her what kind of relationship she had with Dr. Lin Fei, blushing the Girl had absolutely no idea how to reply. She did not think they had any connection at all. So she just mumbled that he was a friend of Mullen, but her father did not. Like that response one bit, instantly he began to wonder if his own daughter was somehow falling behind her friend. Soon, the dead of night settled over the estate. But a brilliant full moon cut right through the heavy clouds, illuminating everything. It was perfect timing for the assassins plotting to storm the mansion. The glaring moonlight exposed every single blind spot around the entire estate. Of course, Lin Fei instantly detected the hostile intruders creeping around. He counted 6 of them in total, not wanting to wake Yao Guang. The young man quietly slipped away, claiming he just needed some fresh night air. In truth, he was scouting the perimeter, stepping out into the courtyard. Everything seemed peaceful at first glance, but he knew better than that. Danger was lurking in the dark, and then the trap sprung. 2 cloaked attackers lunged straight at him, their sharp blades glinting in the light. But catching our hero off guard was never going to be that easy. A cold smile played on Lin Fei's lips as their surprise attack failed completely. Unleashing his raw spiritual energy, he blasted his attackers backward into the dirt. The mercenaries gasped, utterly shocked by the overwhelming force crushing them. Very few survived that initial blast. It was an absolute slaughterhouse. The lucky ones had to watch their comrades get ripped to shreds. One terrified survivor realized they had just messed with a literal monster. The dead were the lucky ones here, at least their suffering was over. Clutching his sword, the trembling man warned Lin Fei to stay back. But his voice shook with pure terror, and his hands were vibrating. Cold and completely unbothered, Lin Fei demanded to know who ordered this hit. Shaking in his boots, the assassin immediately started singing like a bird. He stammered that they were part of the Deadly Night Killers Guild. They only worked for cash and never actually knew the client's identity. Gathering a sphere of lethal energy in his palm, Lin Fei muttered. Since the guy was completely useless, there was no point keeping him alive. Just then, the family rushed outside, hearing the captured man's confession. Wu Mullen went pale. The Night Killers were the most feared assassin group around. But their dark conversation was suddenly interrupted by a strange noise. A phone began to ring from inside a blood-splattered pocket. It belonged to one of the dead assassins. Mullen quickly spoke up, suggesting that picking it up might lead them straight to the mastermind. Lin Fei agreed. He reached down and answered the call without hesitation. On the other end, a cold, raspy voice spoke. The caller demanded to know if the target had been eliminated. Lin Fei smirked, replying that he had already personally put out all the trash. The caller lost his mind, roaring threats about crossing the Night Killers. But Lin Fei did not flinch. He casually issued a warning of his own, telling the mastermind to back off before hanging up and blocking the number. He tossed the phone carelessly back onto the pile of fresh corpses. All he wanted was for these guys to vanish immediately, so with a simple snap of his fingers, he unleashed his inner energy to make it happen right then. At that exact moment, a sudden fierce wave of fire erupted, instantly engulfing the attackers, who had come to raid the estate and complete their deadly contract. Just like that, they were gone. Wu Mullen could only watch in absolute horror as the blaze consumed every trace of them. Meanwhile, Lin Fei calmly asked if she recognized these night assassins. She explained that this faction was actually the most notorious league of killers in the country. Word on the street was that top-tier ancient martial artists worked for them, led by 3 deadly figures, Black Rose, Dura, and Spider Lily. Hearing this got our hero thinking, could this massive network of professional hitmen actually be connected to the infamous Jing Zong? A legendary piece of history suddenly came to mind, about the youngest son of a great ancient emperor, possessed by a dark spirit, and turned into a werewolf. He eventually went on to establish the original Jinggong Mercenary Guild. Cut to another side of town in a wealthy district of Chengdu. Things were getting loud as a furious shouting match echoed inside a mansion. where someone was losing their mind over a serious lack of respect. A striking woman with a beautiful rose tattoo on her leg was absolutely seething with rage. That a random nobody had dared to cross her, yes, the infamous Black Rose, was livid because her squad had botched this simple job twice already. She wanted the target handled immediately, ringing up one of her most dangerous elites. She woke him. He was clearly annoyed by the midnight buzz, asking if she ever gives her subordinates a break, but when she offered $2 million, his tune instantly changed. He simply asked who he needed to take out. Meanwhile, that night, fury was brewing elsewhere too. Plates were literally flying across another room. Pure blind rage. The blonde guy who had recently been humiliated by Lin Fei was losing his mind. Why? His secretary could not find a single scrap of info on the guy. According to her files, he was just some ordinary orphan, fully used to manage her hand's intense temper tantrums. The secretary calmly pushed up her glasses. She assured him she had dug through every system possible, and there was simply no mistake. The angry blonde figured that if this kid had no paper trail at all, then Jian Wei must have hired him to watch over the young heiress, Yao Guang. Following that recent threat on her life, slamming his fist down onto the desk. In anger, he cursed that he would never let some random hired hand stand in his way. Too bad for him, that ship had already sailed. The next morning brought a peaceful silence back to the grand estate. Bright sunlight washed over the courtyard with no trace of the midnight chaos. Lin Fei began his fresh day with a vital task, trying to write down and pass along Zhang Dalin's secret spell. Even though putting it onto paper was incredibly tough, reflecting on the legend of Dao made our hero realize that he, too, had ascended to a celestial level at a remarkably young age. Later, he handed old man Zai a customized protective amulet he had personally crafted. He explained that this paper charm would keep danger at bay, since he was worried someone might target the household. Holding the strange golden paper in her hands, Yao Guang asked with a confused look what kind of charm this was, having never seen anything like it. Instead of explaining, Lin Fei simply tells the family members to keep this protective item with them constantly. That was the only way it could guard them. With that settled, he leaves the mansion to dig into this bizarre nighttime ambush. First things first, the young man decides he needs to get himself a decent set of wheels. But as that thought crosses his mind, a vehicle suddenly comes tearing toward him. A minivan skids to a dead stop right in front of him. This was no accident. In the next second, 3 massive thugs step out of the vehicle and approach him. They demand to know if he is indeed the guy named Lin Fei, letting out a sigh. He asks these hostile guys if they were really sent by that trash Han. He honestly expected that blonde idiot to be just a little bit smarter. The gang leader completely ignores the insult, pointing out that their target is right here. He tells his men that the client is paying $500 for every single stab. Their job is to turn him into mincemeat, channeling his inner energy. Lin Fei complains that his life is undervalued. He is worth way more. Instantly, a massive, crushing aura explodes from his body, shocking the entire gang. The thugs, once so eager for a payday, completely freeze in absolute terror, unable to move. Before they can even blink, 3 of them are sent flying straight into the air. They lose their weapons and whatever dignity they had left. Nobody expected this. As Lin Fei calmly steps toward them, the survivors tense up, fearing the worst. They realize with sinking dread that their turn has officially arrived. One devastating kick launches the gang leader backward, smashing him right into the van. That was a brutal show of raw force. The thug boss is left shivering in shock. He trembles all over, desperately wanting to be anywhere else but here. Looking at his battered crew, the terrified boss stammers out a horrified question. He asks if this monster standing before them is even a human being. Such overwhelming power simply makes no sense to them. Just then, police sirens begin echoing from the neighboring street. It seems some random bystander witnessed the chaotic clash and phoned the local authorities. Within minutes, 3 patrol cars swarm the scene, surrounding our hero and the van. The street is completely blocked off, sealing in the wreckage of the failed ambush. And right here, things turn ugly. Lin Fei knows these cops aren't allies. The attackers were hired plants, staging this whole fight to frame him as the aggressor. They staged everything to make him look like the instigator. Officers draw their weapons, demanding that he put his hands up and freeze right where he is. It is a total setup to clear up this massive misunderstanding. Our hero dials a specific contact, asking to pass an urgent message to Mr. Zhang. He warns him that there is a corrupt rat stirring up trouble among his men. Hanging up, he watches as the officers start whispering about Mr. Zhang. They wonder if the name belongs to the high-ranking head of their department. Regardless, they still slap the handcuffs on him and lead him away. The commander of the Qingyang district, Lu Xinghao, steps forward, claiming the young man is going straight to the station for intentionally harming people. Once at the precinct, the officer who escorted Lin Fei speaks up privately. He admits he knows the young man is actually just an innocent victim here. Honestly, he has no idea why the arrest was even ordered. The sergeant had already decided to make the arrest, glancing at the officer. Lin Fei calmly remarked that he seemed nice, then asked his name. The officer patted him on the shoulder, telling him to worry about himself. Worry about himself, but at that moment, his corrupt boss dialed Director Han to report that Lin Fei was caught. The fair-haired scoundrel smiled. Finally, some good news. The police promised to keep Lin Fei locked up for a very long time. Hanging up, the scoundrel laughed. Their bitter little game was over. He had won just like that. He was the victor. But wait, things were about to explode back at the Chengdu police station. Chief Zhang had just received a bizarre, urgent call from his staff. Some caller identifying himself as Lin Fei said a corrupt official had unlawfully locked him up. The chief was furious at the interruption. He hated meetings being cut short, but hearing Lin Fei's name made him slam his fist down in pure, unadulterated rage. Bolting upright from his chair, the chief screamed at his subordinates. Who was the absolute suicidal idiot that dared to pull this stunt? Meanwhile, Lin Fei was already being sent straight to the notorious Qingyang district prison. The dirty cop was keeping his promise. To his wealthy master, the officer escorting Lin Fei to his cell actually promised to help get a fair investigation, but for now he had to sit and wait. The second he stepped inside, the inmates locked their eyes. On him, new faces were rare here. Suddenly, the local prison boss, a massive thug named Brother Hai, stepped right up to him. His high status was dead obvious, with loyal lackeys crowding around him like eager servants. The inmates quickly noticed the guards had left the boy. Heavy handcuffs, Brother Hai immediately took this as a clear sign to strike. The new kid simply needed to be taught some respect right now. And besides, the guards had not even bothered to warn the boy. But did these threats scare Lin Fei? Not even a little. He just lazily scratched his ear, casually asking what the tough guy meant. Cracking his knuckles, Brother Hai growled that he had only one thing to say: everyone in this cell had earned their spot through blood. If things got dirty, expect no mercy, but to draw the line. Lin Fei decided to show them he was absolutely not to be messed with. His retaliation came faster than anyone could possibly predict. A sudden, devastating punch connected before Brother Hai could even raise a guard or try to dodge out of the way of the blast. The impact shattered the giant's tooth, sending him crashing down, bloody. Lin Fei simply hoped the rest of them would learn their lesson. The loud clash was quickly overheard by that same corrupt police officer, Lu Xinghao, who instantly phoned Director Han to report the news. He claimed the cellmates had already taught Lin Fei a brutal lesson. He promised they would keep breaking him until he realized he was nothing. Meanwhile, another police car was already tearing through the city. Out on the streets, Chief Zhang was fuming. In all his years, he had never seen this. He was surrounded by absolute idiots. The driver urged him to stay calm. They would arrive soon and settle every single issue once and for all. But who exactly was this Lin Fei guy? Why was everyone so incredibly terrified? Zhang snapped back. He was not worried about the kid, but the corrupt official. That fool's life was in grave danger. Meanwhile, Liu Xinghe summoned his loyal subordinate. He wanted to act immediately. There was absolutely no time to waste right now. He ordered his man to file a fake criminal report against Lin Fei. But the honest officer outright refused. He knew those thugs could not be trusted. They were scum. Their words were completely worthless. This defiance made Xinghe boil. The corrupt boss roared. Since he ordered the paperwork done, it must be finished. Otherwise, the subordinate would be marked down as an accomplice to the crime. Right then, Chief Zhang slammed the door open. He was absolutely roaring with fury. He barked out as Liu Xinghe really had quite enough of living. Xinghe's confidence vanished instantly. Shaking, he asked how the chief had even arrived. The corrupt cop stuttered out excuses, claiming he had done absolutely nothing wrong. He was not looking for trouble, but Chief Zhang was not buying it. He accused the scoundrel of conspiring with local thugs to frame an innocent man. Zhang immediately ordered his men to arrest the dirty officer on the spot. He had forgotten his duty. They were supposed to protect, not exploit people. They stripped him of his badge. He was done. His career was over. He kept begging for mercy, admitting his mistake but claiming he was Klein. Zhang told his men to ignore Xinghe's desperate cries. He was finished. Turning to the honest officer, Zhang commanded him to lead the way. He needed to see the prisoner, Lin Fei, right this very second. Hearing the chief speak Lin Fei's name sent cold shivers down Xinghe's spine. Han Yanxi had promised him they were dealing with a simple security guard. But ordinary guards do not get this kind of personal, high-level treatment. The moment Lin Fei was locked up, the chief personally rushed to rescue him. Walking toward the holding cells, the honest officer began to explain the situation. He warned that Lin Fei was locked up with some extremely violent inmates. Even half an hour in there could lead to something absolutely terrible. But what they saw next left them completely speechless. You are not ready for this. Not only was Lin Fei completely unharmed, but he had taken over the cell. He became their leader in just 30 short minutes. Talk about a swift takeover. Seeing Chief Zhang enter, our hero calmly stood up from his makeshift throne. He greeted him warmly, noting it had been a very long time indeed. Looking closely at him, Zhang recalled that the great Lin Fei never aged. Zhang was now a mature man, yet this ancient master remained completely unchanged. This was the mark of a true deity. Zhang bowed low in respect. He apologized deeply, promising the corrupt officer would pay for his crimes. He would face the full extent of the law. The other prisoners stared. They were utterly paralyzed with shock. They had absolutely no idea who this was. They had been sharing a cell with a literal god walking among men. Meanwhile, things were getting pretty tense over at Han Yanxi's luxurious mansion. Han could not reach Liu Xinghe, whose phone was completely turned off. The young man was growing anxious, unable to understand why the corrupt officer was taking so long to lock up that poor security guard he had targeted. To be crushed, suddenly his phone buzzed, a call from Uncle Luo. It was the first time his uncle had ever reached out, spiking his anxiety, hoping to hear some good news. Han quickly picked up, thinking his powerful relative was calling to offer him a massive promotion or major task, but instead, Uncle Luo was screaming so loudly that Han had to jerk the phone away from his ear. Luo roared that his nephew was a complete fool, who had better not touch anything related to Lin Fei ever again. Trying to sound bored, the young blonde said there was no need for such a fuss over a simple security guard, but his uncle snapped that Lin Fei was no common worker, otherwise Chief Zhang would not have personally escorted him out of there. When Han learned that the police chief had gone so far as to fire Liu Xinghe and set Lin Fei free, he stood completely frozen. Completely baffled by the guard's crazy connections, he sank onto the couch, physically sick because every single nerve told him he was in serious trouble. He was in deep. Meanwhile, rumors about the precinct's chaos were already whispering their way through every corner of the city. At Jai Chichenwei's office, a sudden knock broke the quiet, and he called for them to enter, even though he expected no business meetings today. Our protagonist, Lin Fei, stepped in with a slow, intensely confident stride. Looking exactly like the master of the entire city, he stood there silently, offering no immediate explanation for his sudden visit, surprised by Lin Fei's entrance. Jai Chichenwei leaped to his feet and asked how he could assist the guest, knowing this visit was no mere coincidence. Looking closely at the tycoon, Lin Fei stated that he could offer him a job, a phrase that didn't sound like a request at all but an absolute command, yet this didn't bother Jai Chichenwei at all, nor did he feel insulted, because this powerhouse had graced his company, which he viewed as an incredible stroke of pure luck. Without a moment of hesitation, Jai Chichenwei asked the young man what he thought of becoming the vice president of the company, since the seat was currently vacant. Shaking his head, Lin Fei replied that he was not interested in executive work. He wanted to be his daughter's personal bodyguard. The father's voice faltered. He was open to the idea, but had to explain that Yao Guang was currently dealing with a very difficult condition. The girl suffered from a severe case of androphobia and extreme fear of men. Listening to this, Lin Fei calmly asked what had triggered this trauma that no doctor could ever seem to cure. The father sighed and began to explain that when Yao Guang was 9 years old, she was taken by kidnappers. He tried to pay a massive ransom, but those monsters had absolutely no interest in cash. The leader was thrilled to have captured the legendary reincarnated ruler, Yao Guang, rejoicing that nobody could stop his master plan. Instantly, the modern office grew freezing cold as a terrifying aura exploded from Lin Fei. It was obvious that the young man was now completely out for blood. He promised to deal with anyone threatening the girl. Mr. Gi tried to calm his guest, insisting no one had harmed his daughter, but the overwhelming pressure was just too powerful to endure, leaving the man entirely breathless and weak. At that exact moment, a storm raged inside Lin Fei. He had lived as an immortal for 200 million years, while his disciples searched the entire world for Yaguang for 3,000 years. Yet, it was clear that one of them had found the girl long ago, keeping her hidden while harboring his own dark and evil intentions. He wanted to hunt down and punish this traitor right now. The young hero demanded to know if the target had any unique physical features. The man explained that the kidnapper wore a long black robe and a dark mask. He added that his daughter only managed to escape death thanks to the protection of grandfather Wuelin, who risked everything to cast a powerful shamanic spell, badly wounding the criminal. Once the attacker was injured, he was forced to run. Still, this dark encounter left a heavy weight on the heart of Yaguang. Looking down at the floor with a heavy, nervous sigh, Mr. Gi admitted that if the masked villain ever returned, nobody could save his precious daughter. But Lin Fei completely disagreed. He made it clear that if the scoundrel ever dared to show his face again, he would burn him to ashes. This promise brought instant relief, prompting Mr. Gi to bow and say he would officially register the new executive position for Lin Fei. While all this went down, Lin Fei headed over to the private lounge of Mr. Gi, resting on the sofa and calmly sipping hot tea, his mind focused solely on the fact that he would eventually trace the mysterious masked foe who dared to cross his path. Meanwhile, down in the security room, guards panicked because someone spotted an outsider sneaking straight into the private lounge of President Gi, the hot-headed chief of security. A brute named Liu Long was absolutely furious. He rushed over to drag out the punk who thought he was above the rules. Then, another guard reported that this intruder was the same kid who thrashed director Han Yenshi. This revelation thrilled the chief, who immediately saw a perfect opportunity to teach the insolent punk a lesson and secure himself an easy promotion. Spotting director Han right outside the break room door, the eager chief reported that the cocky intruder Lin Fei had somehow breached the executive lounge. He even claimed the punk wanted to poison the prestigious blonde director. Out of nowhere, Director Han slapped the chief hard across the face, roaring how he dared to insult such a respected guest as a common criminal. All the backup guards who crowded into the lounge instantly froze in terror. Nobody knew what was happening or why they could not touch this mysterious Lin Fei. Grabbing the chief of security by his hair, the panicked blonde director bowed and deeply apologized to Lin Fei, admitting he trained his subordinates poorly before begging for forgiveness. With a completely indifferent wave of his hand, Lin Fei told them that no harm was done and ordered the useless guards to clear out immediately. Giving Liu Long a violent kick, Director Han barked at him to leave because if another mistake ever occurred, the entire security squad would be fired. Turning back to the legend, Director Han begged him not to harbor a grudge. Remembering his own past foolishness and how badly he had initially misjudged him, Han had no clue who was standing before him as the young man's gaze grew stern. Lin demanded to know if Han really thought a standing apology was enough. Hearing this, Han immediately bowed low and apologized to Lin once again. He begged for mercy for causing trouble, but Lin did not even look at him. Being completely ignored left the young man feeling totally bewildered and lost. Deeply humiliated and quietly furious, Han finally took the obvious hint. He dropped to his knees, praying Lin would finally forgive him. He desperately wanted the shame to end, and at last, Lin looked at him. Lin coldly told the foolish kid to get lost and stop bothering him. The painful ordeal was finally over, which made the fair-haired young man incredibly happy. He quickly began thanking the merciful Lin before turning to leave. The moment he stepped out of the office, he let out a massive sigh of relief. Honestly, what kind of insane power did Lin hold? One quick call to Director Zhang was all it took. Han walked out into the park to clear his heavy head. But he could not stop thinking about the icy way Lin looked at him. He had treated him like a worthless insect. Meanwhile, in that very same park, Sun Hao stood waiting with a beautiful bouquet of bright red roses. Passing girls sighed with envy, wishing they were the lucky one. His colleague Ha Mingzhi smugly joked that if Sun Hao wanted a date, he should call. Walking over to his car, Sun Hao simply smiled at his clueless friend. He explained that his coworker did not understand women at all because Yao Guang was truly special. Meanwhile, the girls finished work and headed out for their break. They walked along, laughing and chatting, completely unaware of their surroundings. But the moment Sun Hao spotted her, his entire focus shifted completely. Talk about instant obsession. His eyes literally turned to hearts in total adoration. He rushed over to Yao Guang, eagerly presenting her with the roses. He claimed he wanted to check on her after hearing she was sick. Then he invited her to a restaurant, but Yao Guang looked at him coldly. She shut him down, saying she had to go home to her parents. The giant bouquet felt like a major hassle, so she wanted to dump it. Disappointed, Sun Hao ended up handing the flowers to Milan. Her assistant politely thanked him for his sweet gesture and the lovely gift. Still refusing to give up, he suggested going to the Gongju Club tomorrow. Since their companies had a joint project, it was the perfect business excuse. After thinking it over, Yao Guang agreed to meet up for work. She did not really want to go, but rejecting a business partner was risky. She could not just brush him off. Later, when Milan asked what to do with the massive bouquet of roses, Yao Guang told her to throw them away. Hearing this, Sun Hao was absolutely furious at the complete lack of respect. He could not believe she would dare treat him so arrogantly. After an exhausting day, it was nice to finally get away from work. Yao Guang decided to spend some free time doing what she actually loved. She wanted to try archery, so she asked Lin to check her stance. She wanted to make sure her form was correct, but Lin shook his head. He told her that her posture was terrible and she would never hit the target. Her target, Sun Hao and his friend watched the whole scene unfold, highly intrigued. They wondered who this guy was, especially since he hung around Yao Guang yesterday too. But their bodyguard reported having zero info, absolutely nothing. The stranger had simply arrived with Yao Guang that morning. Sun Hao was not pleased at all. He snapped at the guard. Was he implying they spent the night together? Flicking his hot cigarette butt right at the bodyguard's feet, he sneered. The young master ordered him to dig up absolutely everything on this stranger immediately. Plastering on a fake, friendly smile, Sun Hao walked right up to our hero. He offered a polite handshake, introducing himself and asking for the guy's name. Completely ignoring the gesture, Lin Fi simply stated his own name. He added that he was Yao Guang's bodyguard, meaning she was now perfectly safe. Huang burst into loud, mocking laughter, speaking with pure disrespect. He scoffed, saying he expected someone important, not just a lowly bodyguard. The arrogant guy even started tossing insults and sleazy remarks at Lin Fi. He boasted that if Lin Fi worked for him instead, he would pay him 10 times more. At that exact moment, both Lin Fi and Yao Guang shared the same thought. They both realized the guy standing in front of them was a complete scoundrel. Brushing off his friend's crude trash talk, Sun Hao asked if Lin Fi could shoot a bow. He casually proposed a small friendly wager, suggesting they have a quick archery match. The girl tried to step in, warning them that her guard had no skills. But Lin Fi immediately accepted, seeing absolutely no issue with a little challenge. Realizing the trap, a worried Yao Guang quickly whispered to her bodyguard. She warned him Sun Hao was a seasoned archer just looking to humiliate him. But our hero calmly assured her that he knew exactly what he was doing. He added that he had not practiced much lately, though. In fact, the last time he shot a single arrow, it somehow hit a three-toed crow. Flustered by his weird story, the heroine wondered where on earth he found such a bird. She had never even heard of one. Meanwhile, Sun Hao was already celebrating his victory. He grabbed his bow and announced they would shoot from 300 meters just to warm up. The nearby guard gasped, knowing that was an insane range for any normal shooter. But Huang just smirked, telling the guard not to underestimate a true master. Accepting the terms, our hero warned his opponent not to whine when things went south. Then he casually raised the stakes, choosing to shoot from 500 meters instead. Those ridiculous words shocked everyone nearby, and honestly, can you blame them? They figured they were dealing with a fool who vastly overestimated his abilities. Smirking, Sun Hao mocked him, asking if he truly wanted to embarrass himself this badly. It was clear to him that the guard knew absolutely nothing about archery. But the commotion quickly drew the attention of all the wealthy girls nearby. They all cheered for Sun Hao, swooning and desperately wishing for him to win. Fueled by his fan club's energy, he confidently drew his bow and released. All 3 arrows flew straight, landing in the 7th, 5th, and 6th rings. He scored a total of 19 points, which was an incredibly impressive run. Huang immediately showered his friend with praise, calling his performance world-class. He had secured an amazing score. Now it was finally Lin Fi's turn. Sun Hao mockingly reminded him that he wanted to shoot from 500 meters out. With bow in hand, Lin Fei explained he did not want to humiliate his opponent, who had scored his points with 3 arrows. To prove his superiority, he would only shoot twice without even. Looking toward the target, instantly, Sun Hao's fans assumed this bold young challenger was just bluffing. Since landing a blind shot was physically impossible, let alone with only 2 arrows. Closing his eyes, Lin Fei released the bowstring and trusted his sharp instincts to guide him to victory, and his confidence was entirely justified. Because the arrow hit the absolute center of the target, hitting the dead bullseye. His second arrow flew immediately, splitting the first one clean in half. Incredible, the sheer speed and power behind those arrows was absolutely terrifying. They zipped forward with enough force to pierce straight through the thick target boards. Witnessing this insane feat, Sun Hao's supporters stood completely frozen in absolute shock. They could not believe their eyes, immediately screaming that he must be cheating. But Lin Fei's skill was so undeniable that most of the crowd was thoroughly impressed. Even begging the young master for an autograph, he had made a massive impact on everyone. Walking right up to his rival, Lin Fei calmly broke down the results. He scored 20 points with just 2 arrows from 500 meters away, while his rival only scored 19 with 3 arrows and from a closer 300 meters. With the contest officially over, our hero stopped paying any attention to Sun Hao. Instead, he casually turned to Yao Guang and asked what she wanted for lunch. This absolute disrespect infuriated Sun Hao, who was trembling with pure rage. This arrogant scoundrel did not care about him at all, only thinking about lunch. Sun Hao's friend agreed the guy had crossed the line and offered immediate backup. He was ready to order his thugs to teach Lin Fei an extremely painful lesson. But Sun Hao stopped him, saying there was no need for crude violence. The Ji family only seemed untouchable, but their business was highly vulnerable, and he would personally ensure their downfall, while this petty heir plotted his grand revenge. Imagining a desperate Yao Guang crawling back to him, she was having lunch. She was peacefully enjoying her meal with Lin Fei, who was scrolling his phone. Suddenly, he came across a viral video of his incredible blind archery display. Someone had recorded it and posted it online, turning him into an instant celebrity. Viewers were utterly amazed, with some questioning if he was even a human. But Lin Fei had absolutely zero interest in what random strangers online thought. Instead, he was far more curious about why Yao Guang looked so incredibly serious. A strong urge to touch her cheek took over, so he reached out. But the flustered girl flinched immediately and blushed a bright, deep red. Not expecting such a sharp, sudden reaction, he asked what was wrong with her. Pointing out she was acting incredibly tense and unusually timid, deflecting the question. Yao Guang whispered that Sun Hao must be absolutely furious with her right now. Since he was completely ignoring her phone calls and text messages, she explained. Their families were discussing a major partnership, but Sun Hao's father wanted marriage. Hearing this sparked a deep, silent rage inside Lin Fei, who already considered her his future wife. However, he quickly hid his irritation and offered to help her out. Looking away in deep embarrassment, the young lady told him not to try, since he could not possibly help her solve this complex family dispute. As the night settled in, the two of them quietly walked home together. The girl rushed inside to tell her parents she was home, while her bodyguard offered a quick apology for the chaos. Nobody in the villa paid any attention to the strange pale car idling down the street. A cold-eyed man stepped out, keeping a very sharp eye on the entire perimeter. He decided he needed to carefully analyze this target, the very one the Black Rose would pay a clean $2 million to erase. By dawn, the grand estate remained completely peaceful, with bright sunlight streaming through massive panoramic windows over a warm cup of early morning coffee. Her father quietly told his daughter they were going to pay a visit to the mighty Ji family today, and she instantly agreed, but realizing he could not let the young lady go unguarded, Lin Fei asked to join them for this crucial meeting, but Jai Chunwei refused, not wanting to burden his bodyguard, since he and Yao Guang had serious corporate business with their associates and they strictly needed to speak without any prying ears around. As soon as they stepped outside, the stern father asked if she fully understood the true purpose of this meeting. She nodded. She knew, but she never expected their partners to be so incredibly shameless about it. She remembered the exact history of how they risked their own family corporation to save those very ungrateful people during a massive crisis, and now they were backstabbing them. Then the young lady straight up asked if he truly planned on marrying her off to that arrogant Sun Hao, her father's expression instantly hardened into a tight scowl. Mr. G muttered they would not go that far, he only wanted a solid alliance and was hoping for a smooth deal, but the girl nearly choked, hearing he planned to offer them a massive 1 billion on top of the main business contract. Handing over that kind of cash would easily trigger complete bankruptcy. Sighing heavily, her father snapped that she did not understand anything. This tied to Sunhow was just a pretext. They had to offload those bad securities, sign the deal, and watch massive new orders flood in. Still, the girl tried to look ahead, asking him nervously what would happen if those greedy partners rejected his generous offer. Meanwhile, back at the estate, Wuyuin decided to start some training in the sunny courtyard, determined to keep her physical skills in absolute peak shape. At all times, her swift strikes looked incredibly sharp, yet she clearly lacked confidence and raw experience. Lin Fei watched her closely, and everything clicked for him. He saw right away that she was only starting her journey into martial arts, so it made perfect sense why she had to flee from those aggressive thugs earlier. Our hero stepped forward to share a memory of how her strong grandfather had once single-handedly protected the Yao Guang legacy. Now, he would guide her through a few essential training secrets. With a gentle wave of his hand, he promised to pass down the legendary secret style of Linshan, which would protect her in the coming battles. It was the ultimate ancient art of the 10 Linshan shamans, used long ago when they stood as one to defend their clan. When the young girl felt his light touch suddenly transfer the entire secret of this thousand-year-old technique directly into her mind, she collapsed to her knees, weeping with absolute gratitude. But Lin Fei quickly raised his hand, telling her there was no need. He ordered her to train, and she obeyed, but now she realized her power surged immensely, and ancient shadows swirled wildly all around her. She realized she did it. Yao Guang had actually made the breakthrough. She had finally reached the intermediate level after struggling for so long. She had strived for years, seeing absolutely zero success until this moment. A hidden watcher closely monitoring the estate instantly recognized the young lady. He realized she was one of the two who defeated that entire gang. A flashy, extravagantly dressed man smirked, watching her with a dark grin. She made this whole situation so much more entertaining for him now. Soon after, the Gi family arrived at the villa of the wealthy Sun family. Unprepared for such an early visit, Sun Qin greeted them with surprise. He immediately told Mr. Gay that all business went through his son. The old man had already handed over all family affairs to him. They went to the living room, where the arrogant Sunhao already waited. He claimed microchip prices were soaring, demanding Mr. Gi pay several billion more. 2 billion, that is outright highway robbery, and the father was completely stunned. The price was too high, but Yao Guang knew her father needed backup. Calmly sipping her tea, Yao Guang stepped in to handle the situation. She offered 1 billion, asking the young man to overlook yesterday's issue. But Sunhao was not about to let yesterday's events go so easily. He claimed their family partnership was about more than just cash. He admitted he liked Yao Guang, proposing marriage in exchange for a discount. Her father immediately recoiled, strongly objecting to this ridiculous marriage proposal. He firmly believed that business and personal lives should never mix. Marriage is a sacred, personal choice, not a bargaining chip for trade. Realizing the father had no intention of selling out his daughter, Sunhao shrugged coldly, telling the Gi family they could just leave. He had nothing more to say, just as Yao Guang reached the exit. Sunhao called out, making her freeze in place as she turned around. He casually tossed a key, telling her to return when she reconsidered. She could visit him whenever she decided to do what was best. Licking his lips in a vile gesture, he made a disgusting hint. She must visit him strictly in the evening, a demand they rejected. The Gi family walked out and immediately piled into their black car. Driving quickly back to their mansion, Yao Guang rushed straight to her room. She completely ignored Lin Fei, who instantly noticed her red, puffy eyes. It looked as if she had been crying, instantly setting off alarms. Realizing the Sun family and that arrogant rich kid caused her pain, Lin Fei crushed a teacup in his bare hand, demanding to know everything. Yao Guang turned to him, quietly insisting that everything was completely fine. She claimed she was just tired and wanted peace, but her father spoke. He decided to tell the truth about that shameless, spoiled son. He explained how the brat made disgusting demands to marry his daughter. Sitting by a small table, the father recounted the entire, humiliating visit. When Lin Fei heard the whole story, you could practically feel his fury. His rage was so overwhelming that he shattered a second teacup to pieces. Releasing a terrifying, oppressive aura, he declared he would destroy that worthless worm right then and there for daring to propose to Yao Guang. But then he cooled down. Doing this immediately would only make the Sun family target the poor girl even harder. Caution was key. He had to keep his identity completely hidden. Drawing back his power, Lin Fei held himself back. Then he asked if the Sun family was truly the only source in the country for such microchips. Mr. G answered that other options existed. For instance, the richest family in the Southwest, the Yao family, made far better microchips, though their tech was rare and expensive. Smiling, Lin Fei remarked that the Yao clan had done a pretty good job of thriving in this dangerous, chaotic world. Confused by what the mysterious youth actually meant, Mr. G straightened up and asked for clarification. Using a flicker of energy to seamlessly mend the broken teacup, Lin Fei explained that the Yao family had been worshipping him for over 4,000 years, sip by sip. Enjoying tea from the restored cup, Lin Fei promised Mr. G he would handle the situation so there was no need to worry. Meanwhile, far away in a German factory, the Yao family leader was shocked that the legendary Lin Fei had reached out to him for assistance. Standing in protective gear, the loyal subordinate reported that their clan was prepared to die on any battlefield for Lin Fei's sake. But Lin Fei calmly told Yao Chen that he only needed a simple microchip. Hearing this, Yao Chen's attitude shifted instantly, leaving Lin Fei slightly amused, as the leader wondered if that was really all he wanted, but it was true. Yao Chen just could not believe that the Grand Lin Fei would seek him out over such a minor issue. He promised to head back to China in 2 weeks and personally deliver the microchips to the G family. Hearing this, Mr. G instantly stood up, bowed, and thanked Lin Fei for saving them from complete ruin. At the same time, Mr. G realized that Yao Chen had not even brought up a price. If Lin Fei was truly interested in his daughter Yao Guang, their family was incredibly blessed. He immediately planned a dinner for the two of them, but their quiet talk was shattered by a loud knock on the door as an obnoxious voice shouted for Yao Guang to open up immediately. It was a lackey sent by the Sun family, claiming he had to deliver a special package. He warned that if she refused, she would miss a major event. In his hand was an invitation to President Qing's massive birthday party. Young Master Sun was going there, offering the young woman a chance to go as his date. Walking out, Yao Guang snapped that she would rather die than go anywhere with that arrogant fool. She refused to even breathe the same air, let alone accompany him. Naturally, Ha Ming had not anticipated a rejection, expecting her to act like an obedient pet begging for a treat, yet Yao Guang was smart enough to know she should not push her luck and provoke the powerful Sun family any further. Their bitter feud had already gone on far too long. She agreed to accept the invitation and attend the event, but firmly refused to stand by Sun Hao's side. Smirking, Ha Ming sneered that she made the right choice, but just as she turned, reaching for the envelope, he deliberately let it drop to the floor. He claimed his hand slipped, ordering his guard to intervene immediately. She ordered her bodyguard to come over and help pick it up immediately. Realizing trouble was brewing, Wu Molan looked closely at Lin Fei. She begged him to let her just pick up the envelope, but our hero ignored her. Instead, he told Hong to show some respect and pick up his own mess. Hong deliberately ground his dirty shoe into the invitation. The rich kid smirked, claiming he unfortunately couldn't bend down today. He lied that he had accidentally strained his back earlier. Then he mocked the Gi family, dismissing a mere guard's disrespect. Our hero was completely done listening to this smug garbage. Instead of answering, he delivered a massive punch to his face. The hit was so brutal that Hong instantly coughed up blood. Lin Fei mockingly asked if bending over was still so difficult. Shaking in absolute shock, the kid couldn't believe this happened. He hissed that this security guard would pay for touching him. To teach this arrogant fool a lesson, Lin Fei delivered a heavy kick. The blow flipped him onto his stomach before he stomped his back hard. A perfect way to cure his fake back pain, honestly. Pinning him down, Lin Fei demanded the letter from Mrs. Yang. As the letter was handed to Wu Molin, Song Hao watched in shock. He couldn't understand why the Gi family was letting this guard run wild. Meanwhile, a mysterious fair-haired man was watching from the sidelines. He had been tailing them ever since darkness fell, keeping a very close eye on them. While he didn't care about Lin Fei, he found Wu Molin highly intriguing. She was exceptionally talented, making her a dangerous player in this game. To find out exactly how strong she was, he decided to send an elite spy. Late that night, he placed a call to the infamous Black Rose. She was wide awake and very busy, making her absolutely furious at this late-night interruption. Especially when he ordered her to send Beijian on a risky mission. He insisted that they needed to find out Wu Molin's true limits. He even threatened to expose their secret affair to her husband if she refused. Hearing this, Beijian quickly snatched the phone from the dark-haired beauty's hand. He calmly agreed to do exactly what the blonde man wanted. With the threat handled, the couple got back to their business. The next morning, news arrived that a very special guest had arrived. The mansion staff quickly rushed in to report that the highly esteemed Qing Fen had arrived. Hearing this, our hero figured it was time to take a break. He paused the board game he had been so deeply engrossed in. As Qing Fen approached the table, Lin Fei smiled. He asked if the medicine he provided had already worked its magic. After all, finding those rare herbs was no easy task. But Qing Fen was actually there to invite him to an upcoming celebration. He handed over the formal invitation, and Lin Fei accepted without hesitation. He would definitely attend, but not for the party. But because Yao Guang would be attending, he absolutely had to show up too. He carefully placed the invite down, thanking Lin Fei from the bottom of his heart. He felt incredibly blessed that the legendary master would grant him such an immense honor. Not wanting his guest to leave just yet, our hero invited him to play a board game. It was a game Lin Fei loved, but the visitor looked pretty embarrassed. He admitted he couldn't even master basic checkers, making this complex game far too difficult. Moving the wooden pieces, Lin Fei gently explained that the issue wasn't the man's stupidity. Rather, life is just too short, and humans simply cannot learn absolutely everything. Bowing deeply, the guest thanked the great master for showing him such kindness. He praised Lin Fei's profound wisdom and mercy before finally taking his leave. Meanwhile, a strange and completely uninvited car pulled up to the grand mansion. A new guest had arrived, and he was nothing but pure trouble. This red-haired menace was Baijian, the moment he stepped out of his car. He started loudly yelling for Wuling, immediately demanding that she face him. He wanted a real fight, but instead of the girl, Lin Fei stepped out to meet him. Lin Fei recognized this brute from the Bai family right away and asked a question. Did this uninvited hothead know that Yao Guang had recently lost consciousness? Lighting a thick cigar, Baijian frowned and asked what nonsense he was spouting. Sure, he heard she was poisoned, but what did that have to do with him? With a cold sneer, the brute suddenly unleashed his raw, crackling magical energy. Completely ignoring this flashy display of power, our hero stayed totally calm. He simply asked if Baijan had really come just to challenge Wuolin. Summoning a strange, glowing card into his hand, Baijan locked eyes with Lin Fi. He confirmed that was his exact goal, then threw the card forward. He told him to hand it over to the girl he wanted to test. That card flew with absurd force, slicing through the air like a bullet. It slammed straight into the stone pillar behind him, leaving a massive dent. Smirking, Baijan admitted he actually liked that the kid didn't even flinch. Most people would have panicked with a pillar exploding right behind them. When asked who he was, Lin Fi coolly replied he was just a guard. Losing interest in a mere bodyguard, the red-haired fighter sneered. He flipped him off and began walking away from the estate. Sighing heavily, our hero quietly realized that he must be getting old. After all, even ancient dragons never dared to act this brazenly before him. As evening painted the sky orange, Wuolin and Yao Guang finally returned. Pointing toward the weapon card, still deeply wedged inside the cracked pillar. The young man casually told Wuolin that she had a little gift waiting. She initially smiled, thinking her beloved master had bought her some cool ancient artifact. But when she pulled it out and realized it was a death match challenge, and that it came directly from the infamous Baijan, she completely froze. Her friend was equally bewildered, completely unable to fathom the terrifying situation. How on earth did Wuolin offend that absolute psychopath from the Bai family? The poor girl began to utterly lose her mind, panicking. Through tears, she asked where she could have possibly messed up. How did she anger someone so powerful that he wanted to destroy her? During their conversation, Lin Fi asked if this red-haired man was truly worth fearing. The others explained that Baijan had been training in martial arts since age 7 and had already reached his initial cultivation tier by age 12. He even won the Chengdu competition at 18, and by 26, Yao Guang added. He had single-handedly crushed every famous martial arts master in the region. Many powerful people wanted him dead and sent assassins, yet he survived them all. Without getting a single scratch. Hearing this, Lin Fi just smiled and noted that they were dealing with a violent brute who only respected raw power. He had zero boundaries. That casual attitude and tone from him annoyed the girls, since to average people, Baijan was like a god. Clutching the physical challenge letter, Yao Guang immediately urged her close friend to reject it, but Wuolin hesitated and turned toward her master for guidance. Lin Fi did not even look up at first, but feeling Wuolin's intense stare, he calmly turned and told her that Baijan was no match. This bold statement made Wuolin recoil in shock as she argued that her master was dead wrong because she could never beat a legendary warrior. But Lin Fi reminded her that he was guiding her training so she could protect Yao Guang, not so she could run away from dangerous fights. Besides, she carried the proud bloodline of ancient, powerful shamans. This struck a chord. Wuolin realized that if she let herself get intimidated by Baijan, she could never look her proud ancestors in the face again. Gathering her courage, Wuolin dialed the number and called the red-haired fighter to let him know she accepted the duel. Within minutes, the local online group chat for the 4 provinces martial arts community went wild. The news of Wuolin fighting spread like wildfire. Seeing how outraged everyone was over her accepting the match, the arrogant red-haired warrior was thrilled. He smirked, saying he could not wait for the duel. Meanwhile, this play worked out perfectly for the blonde spy staking out their private mansion. Once Baijan kept Wuolin busy, he could easily slide in and eliminate Yao Guang. Back inside, a deeply anxious Wuolin turned to Lin Fi, asking what her real odds were of surviving a clash against Baijan. He calmly estimated them at 60-40, which only heightened her. Since a 60% chance of victory was not very comforting, she asked if there was any way to boost her odds, wanting to reassure her. Wuolin added that those odds were actually decent, urging Yao Guang to reconsider. Sun Chao's proposal now that they had a solid fighting chance. Letting out a heavy sigh, Yao Guang muttered that it was too early to decide, so they would take things day by day. Meanwhile, Lin Fei set his teacup down and announced that he had a way to help guarantee Wu Yin's absolute victory. Channeling his energy, the master declared that they would pivot their focus from basic cultivation to pure martial arts. He believed only one legendary technique could win, the devastating Lord's Strike. This move originated from the northern celestial deity, instantly absorbing this ancient forbidden knowledge. Wu Yin worried that the attack would literally kill Baijian. Now Yao Guang seriously wondered if she should let her friend fight battlefield if the terrifying ability her master gave her was this brutal. Looking closely at the girl, Lin Fei warns her that if she wants to spare her opponents, she must realize her own body cannot take even a single direct blow. Leaving the girls completely baffled, he announces that he is taking off, but will head back before the Zhen family banquet starts. He needs a car, because dealing with random thugs on foot is getting annoying. Arriving at the dealership, a salesman walks right up to ask what model he wants to see and what kind of budget they are working with. Sizing up the young man, the salesman instantly judges him by his simple clothes, assuming he has no cash and steering him toward a cheap hatchback. Walking over to a plain white car, he proudly says this is the perfect option for him. Internally, the guy wonders if this broke kid even has $50,000. Seeing the flat look on Lin Fei's face, the salesman assumes he is too poor for even that, questioning why he even stepped inside such a high-end shop. With a fake laugh, the dealer asks if they should look at something cheaper. Inside, he is furious that this apparent nobody is wasting his precious workday, pointing to another absolute budget ride. He claims this one suits him way better, more suitable for him. Gritting his teeth, Lin Fei can only laugh. He is a literal deity, and yet they treat him like a beggar. Still, his plan is just delivering bread. Looking at the salesman, he asks if he actually knows anything about cars, suggesting such trash. Taking it the wrong way, the salesman scoffs and says this is their absolute cheapest model, so he should leave if he is just browsing. Keeping his cool despite the rising irritation, Lin Fei quietly asks to see their most expensive vehicle instead, completely losing his patience right now. The salesman snaps, shouting that this broke kid has lost his mind. Trying to browse luxury cars he cannot possibly hope to afford. But his angry rant suddenly cuts off. Something completely stops him cold. He feels a sudden, terrifying pressure, an aura so thick and heavy that he completely freezes. When Lin Fei asks if he is tired of breathing, the salesman is paralyzed with absolute fear. Right then, another employee rushes over, deeply confused by her colleague's bizarre, petrified state. Reigning in his power, the young man explains he wanted a Rolls-Royce, but this salesman kept pushing a cheap Ulan on him instead. Finding his voice, the arrogant salesman snorts, declaring that if this kid actually buys a Rolls-Royce, he will personally drop to his knees. Ignoring his ridiculous bet, the female consultant offers to show him their limited edition Bugatti Veyron. The manager never expected to sell it, keeping it on display as a pure show model, but the fact that this machine costs $25 million does not faze him. Instead, he pulls out his card, casually declaring he will take it right now. The female consultant freezes, utterly shocked that this young guy is actually dropping serious cash. Meanwhile, the rude salesman is practically losing his mind, screaming that the kid must still be dreaming. To understand just how much cash was at stake, mentally waving his black card right in the man's face, Lin Fei asked if 25 million was really that much. Smirking, the salesman said he wouldn't stop the purchase, but was eager to watch how this arrogant kid was actually going to pay for such a luxury ride. Staring him down, Lin Fei simply called him a fool, while the nearby female clerk quietly ran the card, freezing in shock when it went Through as the smug salesman stood paralyzed, Lin Fei calmly asked when he could expect his new ride. The girl replied that delivery usually takes half a day, meaning tomorrow morning since it was late, but as they were dealing with a VIP, she offered to personally drive the gentleman home, gently asking for his address and contact info. She was more than happy to chauffeur him right away to avoid any hassle. But Lin Fei declined, saying he was perfectly fine waiting until tomorrow. The female clerk was thrilled, knowing she'd pocket a massive commission of a whole $1 million, while her snobby coworker watched in pure misery. Despair hit him hard as he realized he had just thrown away a fortune. Meanwhile, our hero got a call inviting him to the big feast, as the G family had arrived, but he preferred to make his own way. Later, in a taxi, the driver curiously asked why he was heading to such a luxurious mansion. Did he secure a job as a guard there? Lin Fei simply replied that he was just heading over for dinner. Arriving, guests immediately began to whisper, wondering why the prestigious Qing family would invite someone looking so ordinary. As Lin Fei searched the crowd for his beloved Yao Guang, the arrogant Heiyang, and his buddy Xian Hao spotted him, instantly furious that a mere guard would dare to show his face at such an elite gathering. Talk about awkward. Xian Hao felt so disgusted sharing the room with him that he practically wanted to scream in sheer frustration. Meanwhile, staring at the ancient artifact on display for everyone, Lin Fei couldn't believe how a family that spent generations praying to deities could fall this low. Determined to ruin Lin Fei's night, Heiyang waved over the guards, claiming an intruder had snuck in and needed to be tossed out. The rich kid smugly pointed out that a lowlife guard had infiltrated the Qing family's grand mansion completely unnoticed, adding that he was likely planning to steal valuable antiques to sell off. Turning his cold gaze to this loudmouth, Lin Fei muttered that yesterday's lesson clearly hadn't taught him a single thing. Hiding behind his friend, the coward kept shouting that the thief had sneaked inside with the sole intention of robbing them, and was even trying to assault the person who exposed him. Stepping down the grand stairs, the patriarch asked coldly who dared to break into his home on a festive night to rob them, but the moment his eyes landed on Lin Fei, he instantly froze, horrified that his guests were treating such an esteemed man this way. Unaware of the danger, Heiyang scurried over to the patriarch like a small dog, pointing directly at our hero and bragging about catching a crook. He proudly babbled on, claiming they were all lucky he had intervened in time. A thief would have stolen something, but the host completely ignored him. Instead, to everyone's absolute shock, Qing Fi bowed low to the accused man. He was deeply ashamed, apologizing profusely for the incredibly rude behavior of his rich guests. Seeing the most powerful tycoon in Chengdu bow down to a guy in completely dirty rags left the rich kid frozen, his mind spinning with pure terror. Qing Fi then turned to Lin Fei, asking how to handle this slandering fool. Lin Fei simply smiled and gestured toward the kid. Right on cue, Hung began to tremble with absolute fear. His father had given him this very invitation. And if the host found out his father bailaid, their entire family would be ruined. Desperate to fix this mess right now, the young punk bowed to Lin Fei, claiming it was all a huge misunderstanding. He offered a shaky apology, but Lin Fei was not buying the act. He coldly ordered the troublemaker to get lost, and Hung was only too happy to run. Oh, but the host was not letting him off that easily. He boomed for the kid to freeze, and Hung stopped dead in his tracks. The host calmly reminded him that the invitation was meant for his father, and if his father did not think this event was worth his precious time, then they were officially blacklisted. In fact, he demanded the man resign right away. Naturally, the spoiled brat began to beg for mercy immediately, pleading with Uncle Qing for just one more chance to explain. But the security guards were already dragging him out of the building like trash, throwing him shamelessly out into the cold street, Only now did Hung realize. His own stupid mistake, his big mouth and petty jealousy had completely ruined everything. He was utterly terrified because he knew what his father would do. When he found out, and there was absolutely no hiding this disaster. Now his only remaining sliver of hope rested on getting Sunha to help him out. Meanwhile, back inside, the stunning guest of honor finally made her grand entrance and thanked everyone for coming. Walking down the stairs, she was accompanied by Yao Guang, who instantly spotted Lin Fei standing right there in the crowd. Sipping some expensive wine and smiling, the look on her face said it all. She was incredibly mortified and could not comprehend how this guy got invited to a high-class event. Nearby, Sunha was glaring at him with pure hatred, trying to figure out where this mysterious and ragged nobody had suddenly come from. How did he get Ching Fi to bow? A sudden phone call broke his thoughts. It was his desperate friend on the line, practically crying and begging him to put in a good word for him with the immensely powerful Ching family. But Sunha had absolutely no time for that garbage right now, telling him to solve his own problems and hanging up the phone without another single thought. Meanwhile, Yao Guang was talking to her observant friend, who noticed a strange little piece of paper tucked inside her beautiful pendant. She explained it was just a protective amulet, making Yao Guang gasp in utter disgust. She sneered, asking if that absolute charlatan Lin Fei had given it to her. Hearing her loud mouth, Lin Fei stepped closer with a calm but sharp smile. He remarked that nobody had ever dared to call him a fraud to his face before. He wanted to know exactly why she felt the need to call him that. Li Wei demands to know if he is finally ready to admit he is a fraud. This tense confrontation does not sit well with Yao Guang. She warns Li Wei that she has got it all wrong. He saved her life, which proves he is no fake. Suddenly, an influential guest approaches Li Wei to congratulate her. He congratulates her and presents a gift in a plush velvet box. Inside sits a glittering, limited edition diamond bracelet from Dior. Only 5,000 of these stunning bracelets exist in the entire world. While everyone envies her, Sun Hao confidently walks over to Yao Guang. He flashes a sweet smile, asking if he can take her out on a date. Unprepared for this bold behavior, our heroine freezes up. But she does not even have to make a choice, because someone else decides. Lin Fei grabs her hand, declaring that nobody is taking her anywhere. Sun Hao smirks maliciously, noting that he and Mr. Lin meet again. He mockingly admits that Lin Fei proved himself to be a true genius. Li Wei is stunned to learn that Sun Hao even knows this fraud. She is amazed that a simple charlatan could be this famous. Even representatives of the 3 wealthiest families in town recognize him. She explains that he was the one who gave Yao Guang a simple paper amulet. Yao Guang even ruined a genuine amber necklace just to wear his worthless charm. On top of that, he tried to trick her by playing the saint. Hearing this, Sun Hao mockingly bows, pretending to show deep respect. He sarcastically claims he had no idea the great Saint Lin stood here. In reality, he is just playing along, fully believing the boy is a nobody. Raising his voice, he prepares to humiliate Lin Fei. He demands to know what grand gift the saint brought for Li Wei. Suddenly, nearby guests begin whispering in doubt. Sun Hao is determined to expose the liar before all of high society. He wants to humiliate him before high society, but Lin Fei speaks up. He calmly asks who this fool is to think a mortal can challenge a god. He warns him not to challenge a god, and Li Wei cannot take it anymore. She shouts at him to wake up and come back down to reality. She snaps that there is absolutely nothing special about him that justifies this. Before she can finish her angry tirade, Yao Guang steps in. She asks her friend to stop being so hostile to their guest. Everyone present clearly saw that Sun Hao was the one who started the conflict. Stepping closer, Sun Hao claims he only wants to open her eyes. He finds it sickening that she and her uncle fell for this fake. He vows that today, the grand lie will finally be exposed to everyone. Everyone will see that Lin Fei is just a liar posing as a bodyguard. Instantly, rumors and whispers begin to spread through the crowd like wildfire. The crowd gossips about how his arranged marriage with Yao Guang fell apart. Many suspect that is the real reason behind his hostile, aggressive behavior. Overhearing these wild rumors, Yao Guang completely loses her patience. She demands to know whoever said she agreed to marry him had said anything of the sort. Striding over to Yao Guang, Sun Hao demanded she think carefully before answering, because there was no harm in sharing their joyful news early. Yao Guang was completely caught off guard, totally unprepared to hear such a thing. Panicking and deeply humiliated, she could not stop the tears from welling up in her eyes. She could barely squeeze out a quiet refusal, but if she could not defend herself, her bodyguard certainly would. He delivered a fierce slap right to the insolent boy. With enough force to make him cough up blood, Sun Hao could not even react, and was sent flying several meters backward, crashing violently into the nearby wall, causing the plaster to crumble around him. Suddenly, Hanny burst into wild laughter, seeing his own embarrassing defeat mirrored in Sun Hao's spectacular crash, just a short while ago. Lin Fei had given him the exact same brutal treatment. A guard quickly rushed over to help Sun Hao up, clutching his heavily bruised and reddened cheek. The young heir was practically crying, unable to comprehend how a bodyguard dared strike him. Looking down coldly at the spoiled rich kid, Lin Fei calmly asked him if he really believed he needed anyone's permission to strike him. Just then, Leisha intervened, demanding to know why a mere bodyguard dared act so violently. After all, beating guests at her reception was unacceptable, so she furiously ordered that security throw Lin Fei out, but not a single guard dared move for. A powerful voice boomed from behind, ordering everyone to freeze immediately. The voice belonged to the powerful estate owner himself. Leisha quickly ran to her father and began hysterically crying about how this bodyguard dared to assault her brother, Sun Hao. But the spoiled birthday girl never could have expected what would happen next. Her father swung his hand, landing a brutal slap right across her own face instead. Clutching her stinging cheek, the crying Leisha desperately asked her father why he hit her. Sun Hao, standing right behind her, was left utterly frozen in complete shock. Instantly forgetting all about his own throbbing face, Leisha broke down in total hysteria. Screaming in agony, how could her own father slap her on her birthday? How could he humiliate her like this, in front of all their high society guests? Without giving any explanation, Director Ching simply turned and began walking away. No one understood what was going on. Security rushed to calm the hysterical girl, while Sun Hao just stood there, looking completely lost and bewildered. The mansion staff froze, utterly unsure whether they should drag Lin Fei out or leave him be. Suddenly, their boss barked, demanding to know why they were not at their posts. Believing Director Ching would not let this slide, Sun Hao confidently approached him and demanded a proper explanation, wanting to know why he was being treated this way. The furious host barked back, asking what explanation he could possibly need. After insulting an incredibly esteemed guest at a formal gala and spreading dirty rumors about marrying Yao Guang, any real man in Lin Fei's position would have done the exact same thing. Hearing Director Ching refer to her as Lin Fei's beloved woman, Yao Guang blushed deeply, while Lin Fei savored her sweet, embarrassed look, a beautiful sight he had not witnessed in a whole millennium. Meanwhile, the host continued, declaring that if Sun Hao did not like it, his wealthy father could come settle it, which would be a very different discussion. The furious Sun Hao, nursing a bright red handprint on his cheek, asked maliciously if Director Ching truly wanted to declare war on the powerful Sun family. Their family, backing down, benefited nobody. This only made the man's anger flare up. He snapped this was his absolute final warning. If anyone dared go against the esteemed Lin Fei, they would be dealing directly with him as well. A heavy shock fell over the room. No one could believe that Qing Fen was foolish enough to oppose the powerful Sun family over a mere bodyguard. Meanwhile, Hanishi watched Lin Fei closely, trying to gauge the true depth of his strength. After all, these elite families were literally bowing down before him. Naturally, this left everyone in the room completely baffled. Why bow to a bodyguard? Sensing their confusion, Qing Fen decided to explain. He announced that the great Lin Fei was his absolute savior, someone he respected above all else. Staring at Qing Fen, familiar, Lin Fei realized the older man bore a striking resemblance to his ancient ancestor, Qing Yuntian. Still, no explanation could calm Song's boiling fury. He spat that Qing Fen would live to regret this massive mistake. Retribution was coming. It was only a matter of time before it hit. Storming out, the dark-haired man quickly lit a cigarette with trembling, furious hands. He felt utterly humiliated, treated like some common beast in front of everyone. In his mind, he swore he would get brutal payback on those who insulted him. Pulling out his phone, he dialed a number to arrange a little lesson. He didn't want the trash dead, he just wanted him broken entirely. He wanted him begging at his feet. To cool off, he headed out. Lin Fei walked over to the quiet study to escape the chaos. There, Qing Fen approached him, promising that his daughter would be heavily disciplined. Because he had been far too soft on her, but while looking through an ancient book, Lin Fei calmly replied that there was no need to punish Liu. She simply didn't know any better. Qing Fen then brought up the brewing conflict between the Sun and Gi families. He offered to follow any orders Lin Fei had, and promised his family would mobilize everything they had to assist him. Lin Fei gave him a calm look, telling him not to stress over it, since his plan was already in motion. Instead, Qing Fen shifted to a far more critical topic. Without wasting any time, the estate owner explained a deep family secret. The Bai clan had protected their family's assets for generations, using a secret method to cultivate incredible martial strength. The talent was gone. Not a single person practiced martial arts anymore. Meanwhile, powerful masters were rising rapidly within the rival Bai clan. Even worse, they now possessed a deadly, ancient spirit spider. Lin Fei understood exactly why the older man was so terrified. His own son, Qing Miu, had already been targeted by the ruthless Bai clan. The dynamic had shifted. Their former protectors had now completely turned on them. Deciding to step in, Lin Fei offered him a powerful spiritual amulet. This treasure would shield the Qing family and restore peace to their home. Qing Fen wept with gratitude, but Lin Fei gave him a stern warning. Lei Shuer would likely refuse any aid from him, so if she courted danger, he wouldn't lift a single finger to save her. Walking out of the office, his sharp ears caught a faint, muffled noise that made him instantly freeze. It was the sound of Li Shuer sobbing, while Yao Guang desperately tried to. He tried to comfort her, but she was too devastated about her ruined birthday, ruined by her own father. Seeing the young man, Yao Guang ran straight to him. He asked if she had truly given her friend that special necklace, the one meant to ward off misfortune. Yao Guang gave a quiet nod. Yes, she whispered. Lin Fei wanted to help the Qing family, but Li refused his help, leaving the poor girl completely defenseless. Yao Guang had to step in. She looked closely at Lin Fei. Asking with a slight tremor in her voice if he was angry, she gave away his gift. But instead of getting upset, our hero felt a warm respect for her pure kindness. He smiled and told her those protective charms were quite easy to make anyway. As night settled in, Yao Guang decided it was finally time to head home. Lin Fei followed her quietly, but get this, their peaceful walk wouldn't last. Trouble found them fast as Sun Hao stepped out from the shadows. He smugly announced he was giving Yao Guang one final opportunity to fix this. If she did not leave with him tonight, things would get very ugly. And he made it clear he would not take responsibility for the fallout. Lin Fei just rolled his eyes in pure annoyance. He told Yao Guang to completely ignore this absolute clown. They should just keep walking, but a towering figure suddenly blocked their path. Sun Hao's heavy stepped forward, demanding to know who this kid thought he was. Disrespecting a prominent heir of the mighty Sun family was a grave mistake. Lin Fei recognized him instantly as Tao Yin, Sun Hao's personal martial arts instructor. Our hero calmly stated that he did not belong to any fancy martial arts sect. Yao Guang grew deeply anxious, sensing they had crossed a true ancient martial artist. Hearing her panic, Tao Yin scoffed with a condescending smirk. He asked if this kid was really just some clueless, self-taught amateur. He bragged about being a disciple of the legendary master, Tao Qian. Supposedly a man of ultimate wisdom, Lin Fei found the name quite amusing. Having lived for eons, he knew literally every single powerhouse in history. Tao Yin, however, completely misread the look on his face. He arrogantly assumed this kid was shaking in his boots, ready to back down. Ready to run away and abandon the girl, but he was dead wrong. Shaking his head, Lin Fei calmly replied that he had never heard of this master. This direct insult enraged the proud teacher, who immediately decided to punish him. Unleashing his internal energy, he roared, "How dare a nobody insult his master?" A legendary master who had accomplished so many incredible feats in his life. With a fight brewing, a crowd quickly gathered on the street. People pulled out their phones, eagerly filming the impending clash. Everyone wanted a piece of the action. Seeing this, Sun Hao stepped in. He held his mentor back, warning that a crowd might draw the police. Gritting his teeth, the young master glared at Lin Fei with pure hatred. He hissed that the boy was incredibly lucky to walk away today. This was only a temporary escape. Their paths would cross again very soon. He swore their next clash would end differently, empty threats to our hero. But Yao Guang beside him was visibly shaking, terrified of what almost happened. The constant pressure was clearly starting to break Yao Guang's mental state. Capitalizing on her distress, Sun Hao smugly declared that just for today he would let her loyal bodyguard off, but she still had to leave with him. Otherwise, she would face major trouble. Right then, Lin Feng intervened. He casually warned the Sun family to tone down their massive egos. After all, they only got rich off some seriously outdated microchip tech. Grinning arrogantly, Sun Hao retorted that nobody would dare call their tech outdated. The crowd began whispering, noting that only the Yao family dared look down. On the Sun family's chips, meanwhile, the dark-haired heir kept mocking them, claiming that even if the Ji family collapsed in a single day, their shareholders and staff would not just go down with them. Fuming, Yao Guang snapped that their workers were fiercely loyal to them, and told Sun Hao to keep his nose out of their business. Just then, an elderly manager stepped forward and countered her claim. He insisted that joining forces with the Sun family was highly profitable. As a manager at G Corporation, he urged her to reconsider Sun Hao. Yao Guang was completely shocked. Shaking, she turned to Liu Chen. She demanded to know how he could betray them after all their kindness. Laughing mockingly, Sun Hao sneered that she needed a quick lesson in reality. He told her that smart people adapt to where the power lies, warning that anyone can find themselves completely abandoned in an instant. He smirked, hinting that his family had backing far beyond mere production. With that, he shifted his cold gaze over to Han Yingzi. He knew that pulling this key player over would shatter her confidence. If the blonde joined his side, Yao Guang would lose all hope. But Han Yingzi was actually deeply uncomfortable with this open betrayal. Hearing his future boss brag about stabbing people in the back was a massive red flag. He wanted absolutely no part of this. So he awkwardly informed Sun Hao that he had some urgent matters requiring his immediate attention. This blatant snub absolutely infuriated the arrogant heir. He angrily barked at Han Yingzi to stand down and return. But the blonde was already booking it out of there. He had helped Sun Hao once before, and it ended in absolute disaster. There was no way he was going to make that same mistake twice. Seeing him bolt, onlookers whispered that the guy must have a real crisis to deal with, otherwise he would never flee this event so quickly. Right in the middle of the chaos, Lin Feng stepped up to make his move. He confidently declared that once G family upgrades their chip production, the Sun family will face massive, crushing market losses. Striding past them with total confidence, Lin Feng announced that the Sun family needs to get ready for second place. Looking at Sun Hao's shocked face, he asked if he truly doubted him. Chuckling, the dark-haired heir asked if this kid was completely delusional, wondering who fed him such absolute trash to make him believe a total fake like him could actually compete in this market. Our hero saw just how arrogant his opponent was, completely convinced no one could ever touch his market share. Watching this smug display only made the anger burning inside our hero grow even colder. To make things worse, a former worker from Director Gee's corporation started talking trash. He claimed they were just dealing with some clueless country bumpkin who had no business here. Someone who actually dreamed of taking over the wealthy Yao family's microchip empire. Hearing this absolute garbage made Yao Guang snap, angrily shouting her next move. Effective tomorrow, Liu Cheng was officially fired and banned from ever stepping foot inside the building. That was the exact moment the traitor realized he had crossed a very dangerous line. He was in too deep now, and there was absolutely no turning back for him. This terrified him, but his sheer panic did not last. Sun Hao stepped in, promising Liu Cheng that everything would be fine. He did not just guarantee his job back, he promised a massive pay raise too. Sun Hao told him to relax and enjoy the party because total chaos was coming tomorrow. The GC Corporation was about to burn. Meanwhile, Yao Guang walked away from the scene. She tried to convince herself that her other workers could not possibly be this useless. But the very next morning, reality hit her like a ton of bricks. Her team urgently called to report that everything was spiraling out of control. They desperately needed a plan to escape this absolute mess, and they needed it now. Still brushing her teeth, she had to listen to the stressful updates from Wu Yuan. Her friend explained that Liu Cheng and the greedy board members had started a massive riot. Hurrying to get dressed, Yao Guang told her they had to reach the office immediately. They had to stop this fast. Inside the corporate tower, rumors spread like wildfire. Word was that the company was on the absolute brink of a complete, catastrophic collapse. Their only hope of survival was bowing down to the powerful Sun family. The treacherous Liu Cheng was loudly pushing for one desperate solution. He insisted that Yao Guang must marry Sun Hao to secure their financial rescue. But just as they were plotting, the lady herself walked right in. Talk about perfect timing, she caught them trying to sell her off behind her back. Right by her side was our hero, looking as intimidating as ever. His heavy presence instantly sent a cold shiver through the room. Our hero scanned the panicked crowd and noted that all his favorite targets had gathered. Completely ignoring the threat, Liu Cheng scoffed in his face. He arrogantly demanded to know why a mere guard was crashing a high-level board meeting. But Director Gee quickly shut him down, showing zero tolerance for his attitude. Instead, he directly invited Mr. Lin to take a seat right at the main table. This absolute power move drove the traitor completely insane with rage. He demanded to know why a common security guard got to sit in the chairman's seat. Several other corrupt board members joined in on the angry shouting. They all knew Han Yenny had secretly sold out to the Sun family too. So Liu Cheng turned to him, demanding his public support on the matter. But the blonde traitor was caught off guard, desperately trying to play both sides. He stammered that Director Gee surely had his own valid reasons for this. He claimed there was simply no point in arguing about it right now. The other members gasped. None of them expected Han Yenny to stay quiet about a lowly guard. Even the guards looked baffled. Everyone in the room figured he was crazy. Lin Fei glanced at the director, asking if he truly wanted him to fix this mess. The director nodded, desperate for help, since our hero absolutely despised trouble. He decided to handle this entire situation as quickly as possible. He explained the situation clearly. The company was now split right down the middle. One group wanted to join forces with the powerful Sun family. The others wanted to remain completely loyal to Mr. G. Tapping his fingers on the wooden table, Lin Fei made a cold declaration. Anyone unwilling to bend the knee to the Suns could walk out right now. Mr. G personally thanked those who stood up and headed for the exit. He shook their hands, promising their loyalty would never be forgotten. Seeing all this made Hanishi seriously doubt his choices, leaving him totally overwhelmed. His mind raced wildly. Suddenly, he stood up from his own chair. He announced the Han and Z families would stand together through everything. Because of that, he had no intention of giving up his seat. Everyone in the room gasped at the blond man's sudden declaration of loyalty. They couldn't believe he was no longer pushing the G family to surrender. Was this really the same ruthless guy who would kill for personal gain? But Hanishi wasn't done shocking them. He turned to the other shareholders. He earnestly asked his father's close friends to walk out with him. Amazingly, many of them listened and decided to back the G family. They did this even though they previously thought the Suns would win. Desperate to stop any more defections, Liu Qing immediately spoke up in anger. He snapped that this room was full of idiots who would regret this. They would regret it once the Suns took over. Now our hero stepped up. He looked at the remaining executives and told them to get the hell out. They could go straight to the finance department and collect their money. Talk about a reality check. Lu Cheng never expected to hear that. He was utterly shocked. Honestly, even Yao Guang looked worried now. The plan was insane. He wanted to wipe out a massive portion of the board. Without them, the whole company would collapse, gone just like that. No one could believe his plan. He actually wanted to fire them all. 2/3 of the entire leadership team. It was absolute madness. It would ruin them. One executive adjusted his glasses and spoke up. He asked how they could possibly keep running without any senior leadership. That worried question came straight from the chief financial officer himself. He was deeply concerned about whether the GC Corporation could afford the payouts. To him, the young man had absolutely no clue about the financial damage. Firing this many people would cost the company an astronomical amount of money. His calculations showed the severance packages alone would be staggering. At least 200 million, that would completely ruin the company. Plus, they would lose all their highly qualified specialists forever. But then slap, our hero threw a sleek black card onto the table. There are 3 billion on it. That is more than enough to cover everything. He was completely done listening to their endless, whining nonsense. A sudden snap, he ordered every single one of them to get out. No air, their constant, loud outbursts had made the room completely suffocating. Before they left, he gave a warning. Clearly, they did not fear deaths. Since they were dealing in highly dangerous business, they should watch their health. Finally, the disloyal employees scurried out of the room. Mr. G burst into roaring laughter, leaving his daughter completely and utterly baffled. Ruin was close, yet here he was, laughing like a madman. Patting her shoulder, he admitted he had caused her far too much worry. Then the shocker, the Yao family had already agreed to supply their microchips. They were saved. The incredible news sent a wave of pure relief through her. She froze. Yao Guang never imagined they could ever pull off this deal. Securing the absolute best hardware on the market felt like a dream. Her father smiled, explaining this miracle was entirely thanks to Lin Fei. To cover their immediate losses, he had even secured 200 million. Staring at her quiet bodyguard, she could not believe what he had done. He did it all in secret. She had completely underestimated his potential. Lin Fei shrugged. There was absolutely no need for any thank you. The money had to be returned, and negotiations had driven the price up. But he promised to handle that part too. Mr. G nodded, relieved. The major crisis was solved, but the company still lacked leadership. More trouble was coming. With no leader, they were bound to hit walls. After pondering, Yao Guang asked if the resignation process takes a full month. By then, news of their partnership with the Yao family would be public. No one would ever want to leave the company now. Standing up, he smiled. The young man promised to contact Yao Jin so they could announce it. Soon the public would know. With that, he headed for the exit. He wanted to step outside to see if his car had arrived. Watching him go, Mr. G wished this guy was his son-in-law. And honestly, who can blame him? A son-in-law like that solves all your problems. Outside, one of the resigned workers smirked, offering Lin Fei a ride. He mockingly assumed the poor bodyguard could not afford his own car. The arrogant man bragged about his BMW, calling it a total fortune. He sneered, saying Mr. G's bankrupt family could never pay him decently. Just then, a roar cut him off. Lin Fei's ride arrived. A gorgeous luxury car pulled up, making the loudmouth jump back in shock. Talk about instant karma. He never expected such a masterpiece to appear. The dealer stepped out, bowing and apologizing deeply for the delivery delay. She blamed traffic, leaving the former employee standing there, completely baffled. Why on earth was a professional dealer bowing to a mere bodyguard? She quickly handed over the official registration, the manual, and the keys. Politely, the agent asked him to check and verify all details. The former employee stood frozen. He was in absolute, speechless shock. This was impossible. Did this incredible luxury vehicle actually belong to him? It cost far more than his cheap BMW. Lin Fei jingled the keys. He asked the stunned man to repeat his words over the engine's roar. It was hard to hear him, while young Sun Anhao was simply enjoying the sunny day. He felt like an absolute winner, believing the old GC family foxes were completely trapped. Those old GC foxes were totally in his hands. His father was also very pleased, saying, the entire GC corporation would finally be theirs. After all, only the Yao families. Chips could beat their tech, and they had zero interest in cooperating with anyone. But that perfect dream was shattered completely the moment the family grandfather burst into the room shouting, demanding to know if they even realized what was happening while they sat there shamelessly drinking their wine. Some incredibly shocking news about the Yao family had just surfaced. Rumor was they had sold all their advanced microchips to Hashun at the standard market price. The elderly head of the family tossed a fresh newspaper at them. Sun Anhao immediately snatched it up, desperate to read the front page, needing to see if his grandfather was actually telling the truth. How was this even possible? His father instantly jumped up from his seat, asking what they should do now since they were completely helpless, fully aware that they were absolutely ruined now and would definitely not be able to take over the GC corporation. Staring very closely at his incredibly foolish son, the elderly Mr. Sun said he had come to ask that exact same question of those who had caused all this chaos. In a fit of rage, Sun Anhao ripped the newspaper to shreds and screamed that those vile bastards had planned their escape routes in advance, just to openly destroy them. After speaking those devastating words, the old grandfather suddenly dropped his heavy wooden cane, which had been keeping him upright, sending it clattering to the tile floor as he collapsed onto the edge of the sofa, saying there was no point in talking now, since their family was officially facing serious, inescapable trouble. Inside, Sun Anhao boiled with a quiet, burning, and completely uncontrollable rage. He desperately wanted to know why the Yao family suddenly decided to cooperate with GC, especially since they had never before shared their high-end chips with anyone. He had never even seen these two companies growing close at all. Someone had to have facilitated this whole deal, and Lin Fei was the prime suspect. And honestly, would you blame him for suspecting Lin Fei? Then his phone rang. And when he answered, Liu Cheng cheerfully suggested organizing a small celebration to mark their victory over the GC family. Everyone was apparently just waiting for him to arrive to meet their new boss. That was the absolute final straw. He snapped and screamed back, asking how anyone could possibly think about partying at a terrible time like this, and besides, he could not care less about those silly layoffs. Poor Liu Chung nearly went deaf from that sudden, furious blast, completely unable to understand why the young master was angry when he should be celebrating, but everything had gone completely sideways. Once the shouting quieted, Liu Chung nervously tried to interject a few words, since he was far too curious to find out what could possibly make the young man so incredibly furious. But instead of an explanation, the call was abruptly cut off. Liu Chung was completely baffled, wondering if his new boss had finally lost his mind since he just ignored him like that. Soon, the real truth of the situation came out. An ex-employee called everyone, telling them to check the social media update on their former company website, announcing massive updates that would completely shake up the GC Corporation. The Southwest Yao Corporation sealed the deal, securing their massive partnership. Now they are actively supplying their world-famous microchips. Meanwhile, Hanny is currently in absolute panic, deeply regretting his highly questionable and incredibly risky choices. The young man constantly worries his father will disown him for supporting the Gi family. But turning his back on Gi meant facing the absolutely terrifying and devastating wrath of Lin Fei. That terrifying force would have brought absolute ruin to his entire family. Suddenly, a sharp knock at the door startles the anxious blonde youth. He never expected his father to return so quickly, and he instantly fears the worst. Hanny steps back in fear, fully expecting to be thrown out. Punish me, he braced himself to take all of the blame. But in his heart, he still firmly believes that Lin Fei is the far bigger threat. Instead of screaming, his father pulls him into an incredibly warm and unexpectedly tight embrace. With a proud laugh, the older man praises him for becoming so mature. Hanny stands there completely lost, utterly unable to comprehend this incredibly sudden and massive shift. He actually worries his father lost his mind from all the stress. But then his father reveals the amazing news about Yao and Z. They signed a massive, long-term deal to supply Hashin with their high-end microchips. Totally unexpected, this was a future Hanny never even dreamed of. His face says it all, frozen in absolute shock at this crazy turn. He immediately warns his father to stay far away from the dangerous bodyguard of Mr. Gi. That bodyguard is dangerous, and Mr. Han slowly nods in complete agreement. He knows Lin Fei has insane connections and can pull serious strings. Hanny instantly confirms this is indeed the case, warning his father of the immense danger. He suspects Lin Fei single-handedly arranged the partnership between both families. Pure peace, our hero is currently taking a well-deserved rest. But that quiet peace shatters completely when Yao Guang suddenly bursts into the tiny room. She loudly announces that they have some serious business to attend to. Without even looking up, our hero warns Wu Ying to avoid killing anyone. He casually mentions his strong soft spot for the gorgeous, fiery red-haired warrior named Beige. Soon they are riding a ski lift heading up Mount Ching Chong. Lin Fei is acting strange. He cannot keep his eyes off the window. She instantly knows he is not simply enjoying the beautiful scenery and directly questions him. Keeping his eyes fixed ahead, the young man shares his thoughts. This familiar place reminds him of a dangerous old enemy, Zhang Dao Lin. That monster absolutely refused to ascend to heaven until he crushed the entire Bashu Yao. Our hero declares that as long as Qingkeng Mountain stands, they are safe. They will never run into Zhang Dao Lin here, which is honestly a major blessing. Up ahead, Wu Molin happily announces that their contacts are waiting. They are already gathered right at the summit, meaning their highly anticipated arrival is extremely close. Then trouble, a rude woman suddenly stops Wu Molin in her tracks. This stranger demands to know if she is participating or just spectating. Active participants have to pay a significantly higher fee just to enter this exclusive venue. Without buying a ticket, she will not be allowed to enter the competition venue at all. Having to pay just to compete is a totally new concept here. Confused and flustered, the young girl desperately tries to figure out if this is a scam. Wu Mullen decided to buy a ticket anyway, just to avoid any trouble. The crowd gathered there was already so massive that it was simply unreal how the ticket attendant actually managed to spot anyone trying to slip. Inside without paying, so many outsiders swarmed the place that they blocked the path for the actual competitors. Because of that, even the registered participants struggled to get through, but when the crowd spotted the red-haired Baijan, the sea of people instantly parted. The giant stood calm, casually smoking a cigarette. He seemed quite surprised that she had actually accepted his dangerous challenge. Yet her gait was steady, showing she had absolutely no intention of backing down. Zero fear, Wu Mullen confidently stepped forward, declaring she would gladly take on anyone who claimed to be better than her at martial arts. She was ready to prove them wrong. The massive crowd roared with pure excitement as both fighters finally stepped into the ring. The commentators announced that the broadcast of this Wu Masters match would start streaming across social media very soon, determined to intimidate his opponent and show off his raw power. The giant unleashed a single strike so devastating it split the very concrete right beneath their feet. After slamming down another hit, Baijan announced this was his special welcome for the girl, warning that this ring would easily become her grave right now. He smashed the massive concrete slab into a million sharp fragments with his bare fist, sending them flying like missiles straight at Wu Mullen. For a brief second she was stunned because she definitely did not expect an attack like that, but she quickly regained her focus, managing to leap out of the way at the absolute last second, just as a massive chunk of stone slammed down right where she stood. She would have been completely crushed. Thankfully, she grabbed a large stone slab as a shield, keeping safe while the smaller fragments crashed all around her. But she knew this brief break would not last. Sure enough, her instincts were proven right as she felt her massive opponent charging straight through the dust. With one powerful swing of his huge arm, Baijan pulverized her makeshift shield, exploding it into a shower of pebbles. Yet Wu Mullen somehow managed to dodge the blow. She even blocked his next attack with absolute ease, instantly caught Baijan's eye, forcing him to admit she was pretty fast. So Baijan decided to switch things up with his legs, unleashing a heavy kick that she managed to successfully block as well. She did it so effortlessly, it looked like she barely even tried. The crowd was absolutely stunned. Honestly, who could have seen this coming? But they were absolutely fascinated by this mysterious girl holding her own. Now everyone finally understood why Wu Mullen had the guts to accept this insane challenge, and right on cue, a highly irritated Baijan was losing his temper. He prepared a secret leg technique designed to completely take her out. Sensing the danger, Wu Mullen realized she was going to get seriously hurt unless she came up with a counterplan right now to turn the tide. But before she could act, his devastating strike came crashing down on her. The impact was so massive that a violent shockwave shook the entire arena. Everyone held their breath, wondering if she could possibly survive a hit like that. Debris flew in all directions, and the crowd watching the intense fight closely panicked and scattered as shattered cobblestones came flying straight toward where they stood. But their panic was useless because a grand master standing nearby simply waved his cane, making the stones explode right in midair. Bursting into a flash of sparks, Yao Guang and Lin Fi were standing among the guests, and it was clear the worried girl was deeply concerned for her friend, constantly asking if she would be fine. Her companion felt certain the opponent's strike had failed to land a decisive blow, and he was right. Soon, everyone realized that it was now Wuen's turn to counterattack, and she had no intention of letting this perfect opportunity slip away. She was already charging toward her Rival, she unleashed a flurry of wild techniques, but so far she hadn't landed a solid strike because he effortlessly slipped past every single blow and stayed completely untouched, yet the crowd did not see this as a win for Beiji. Even without taking a direct hit, he was constantly pushed back, and his fans thought he was totally done. Honestly, talk about drama. Then a man in white shouted out that the redhead must immediately trigger his special quick reaction move. An older master nearby asked the loud man if he was the one who taught Beiji that skill, but the silent man offered no reply. It was actually the young fighter's father. Once Beiji realized he had been given the clear green light to use this move, he decided he first needed to relieve some pressure. He delivered a brutal strike straight to the girl's gut, completely knocking the wind out of her, but Yuan was no pushover and managed to counter, landing a heavy open palm strike right back in the same spot. Coughing up blood, the red-haired warrior leaped backward, realizing he needed to find a better position to continue the battle. His opponent was in the exact same rough shape, forced to back away as the sheer impact of the strike literally sent her flying without any way to stop it, wiping blood from his mouth. Beiji grinned and called it a truly excellent fight, noting he hadn't faced such a strong opponent in ages. He readily admitted she was incredibly tough, so he had to give it his absolute all. This confession deeply frightened Yuan because she never expected him to still be holding back. Now she realized she had to rely on a secret, newly mastered technique. Meanwhile, her rival had clearly decided it was time to unleash his ultimate strength. Tensing his massive muscles, he dramatically shredded his shirt right off. Honestly, the live chat completely lost their minds. Spamming hyped comments, they claimed the whole thing looked like crazy special effects. Nearby, one of Elder B's subordinates cautiously walked up to him and asked if pushing this hard would overexert his vital life energy and permanently damage his son, but the father believed nothing truly terrible would happen. It would just put a heavy strain on his body, and if he didn't push this far, he couldn't unleash his ultimate technique. For now, everything showed that Beiji felt fantastic, completely overflowing with raw power that was impossible to contain. Charging forward, he used his signature fierce storm technique, planning to totally blow Yuan away. He leaps high into the air, aiming to sweep the frozen girl off her feet. Baijan directs his entire strength into a lethal technique called 100 Fists. He is absolutely certain this onslaught will crush her once and for all. Similar terrifying thoughts rush through Yao Guang's mind as she watches the arena. She screams her friend's name in sheer panic, fearing the absolute worst. But the protagonist quickly stops her, telling her to stay calm and watch. They need to watch closely right now to see how she handles this strike. There is no reason to doubt Wu Mullen's hidden, monstrous strength. The girl closes her eyes, forming a sacred seal to call for aid. She calls upon the legendary Lord of the North to guide her strike. The divine presence answers, allowing her to unleash the ultimate secret technique. Her bright green eyes pop open, glowing with an ancient, terrifying light. This ancient spirit answers her call, flooding her entire body with power. He grants her a legendary technique of truly unimaginable force, changing the tide. She will not be harmed. She meets his 100 strikes with one single fist. A massive clash of pure energy erupts as their fists collide. Baijan was confident he would win, but reality hits him like a mountain. Their massive energies collide head-on with terrifying, explosive force. A violent shockwave ripples outward, shaking the entire arena to its core. Watch closely, the Elder Masters instantly recognize that legendary signature strike. Wu Mullen has just unleashed the true power of the Lord of the North. The crowd watches in absolute horror as Baijan is violently thrown back. He crashes hard, spraying fresh blood all over the cold concrete floor. One look at his shattered state makes it clear he is finished. Thick, dark blood spills from his mouth, and he cannot stop the flow. The arena falls into a stunned silence after that sudden, overwhelming burst. Spectators watch with bated breath, unable to believe their own eyes. They realize the legendary, undefeated art of Kwanhu has finally been shattered. Baijan is on the verge of losing his title of absolute invincibility. Silence then whispers. Everyone wonders what deadly technique she just used. Master Bai rushes to the arena floor, desperate to check on his son. As Baijan coughs up more blood, his father feels a cold wave of fear. He has never seen his proud son in such a pathetic, broken state. The desperate father commands his son to stay completely still on the ground. Activating his healing arts, he channels vital energy directly into Baijan. He tries desperately to stabilize his son's rapidly fading life force. Yet the old man cannot stop wondering about that bizarre, monstrous strike. How could such a fragile girl harbor such terrifying, world-shaking strength? Pushing his pride aside, he demands to know the name of her technique. Wu Mullen grits her teeth, enduring the searing pain radiating through her arm. She forces the words out. It is the strike of the north. The revelation leaves the old master completely frozen in sheer disbelief. He cannot comprehend how she mastered such a lost, legendary power. He demands to know her teacher, since he is a devoted follower himself. Master Bai narrows his eyes, deeply suspicious of the cunning old master behind her. Yalao revealed that the legendary Supreme Lord of the North actually lived on Mount Wang, not in Qingcheng as rumored. Meeting the girl's gaze, Mr. Bai asked her to name her esteemed mentor. Who could have possibly taught her such terrifyingly powerful martial arts? Turning toward Lin Fi, she looked at him questioningly, completely unsure. Should she reveal him? She hesitated, torn over showing his secret power. Too nervous to wait, her anxiety spiked. She quickly blurted it out. She declared that Master Lin Fi taught her everything, frowning, the head of the Bi family asked if any Shishu instructors actually shared that surname. But nobody knew him, absolutely nobody. Who was this mysterious grandmaster? Everyone was baffled, except the blonde fighter who had fled the duel. He ran off terrified because he knew Hai Meigui, also known as the Black Rose, wanted him dead. He was furious, absolutely livid. The girl had hidden the identity of the powerful mentor who trained her. Just then, Hai Meigui sent a message asking if he completed the job. His patience shattered instantly. He fired back an angry text explaining that things were complicated. He warned Hai Meigui that Yao Jiang had not only an elite bodyguard, but a friend with an insane master. Shrugging off his excuses and desperate tales, the legendary assassin leader wrote back offering the blonde fighter $3 million to finish it. That massive pile of cash did the trick. Now he listened. Oh, now we are talking. The game just completely changed. His mission no longer felt hopeless. A dark plan formed in his mind: find an even stronger grandmaster to back up his strike and eliminate Yao Jiang once and for all. He remembered a family feud. The families were at war. Sun Hao led their martial training. He quickly shared this idea with his dangerous boss, Hai Meigui. She asked if the wise martial master, Tao Tine, would agree. The blonde fighter asked if the old master would stand by silently if a dangerous fighter like Wu Muling ruthlessly targeted and killed grandfather Sun Hao. Meanwhile, our story shifts to the Jai family estate, where our hero was casually chatting with girls. He joked that the secret assassin organization must have some brains. After all, since they actually managed to wound chief bodyguard Yao Guang, his mocking speech was cut short when a phone rang. Shattering the quiet room, it was Yao Jiang calling. He reported that he returned from abroad and would arrive in Lotus City tomorrow to discuss future business cooperation with the Jai family. Deciding that Yao Guang should speak with him directly, our hero handed the phone to her, explaining that the Yao family heir wanted to cooperate. To be honest, the girl was utterly thrilled. at the rare chance of speaking directly with President Yao himself, since his name had become a total legend in microchip tech. Not wanting to disrupt her call, our hero quietly left the room, stepping onto the balcony to get some cool, fresh air. He loved that Yao Guang was so passionate about her work and never dismissed the family business as something unworthy of her effort. After ending her chat with Mr. Yao, the girl followed Lin Fei out onto the balcony. Returning his phone, she stood there in silence, gazing out into the distance, then asked without even turning her head why Lin Fei had been so incredibly kind to her family by always coming to their rescue. The sudden question caught the young man off guard. He had no idea how to explain that in their past life she was actually his lawful wife, a woman he loved beyond madness. Even now, looking at her, he still saw the face of that very same woman from centuries ago, and he simply could not forget her. Those deep feelings that had bound them together for thousands of years felt impossible to put into words, so he just gave a simple reply. He did it because she was Yao Guang, but she still did not understand. They were complete strangers, so his kindness made no sense just based on a bit of admiration. Hearing this, Lin Fei decided to finally tell her that they had spent 2,000 years together in a past life, and he could even show her those memories if she wished. As a magical glow began to flicker in his hands, the startled girl immediately refused. She only cared about her life right now, in the present, and had no interest in clinging to things that happened thousands of years ago. Looking down, she softly explained that she was just an ordinary girl wanting a normal life, asking if she truly had to become this ancient Empress Yao Guang. Lin Fei let out an awkward laugh, asking if he had just been rejected and thrown straight into the friend zone. Bowing deeply, Yao Guang quickly told him to let go of the past and stop focusing on their resemblance, since no two flowers in this world are ever identical. World are exactly alike. Even so, Lin Fei still held on to hope that maybe once Yao Guang got to know him better, she would fall in love all over again, solving everything. This intense talk deeply embarrassed the young lady, making her turn away and claim she did not want to continue the conversation. The next evening, things took a very interesting turn. At a high-end hotel on the outskirts of the city, quite visibly anxious, Yao Guang asked Lin Fei to accompany her to meet President Yao. Lin Fei nodded, saying he was actually quite eager to meet this young man. Yao Guang was stunned. He would call an older, distinguished gentleman who was old enough to be her father, a mere young man. But when a friendly, middle-aged man welcomed them, she was totally baffled by how Lin Fei had described him, since the older man looked like his son. Lin Fei stepped up first to introduce Yao Guang, letting her step forward and introducing her as the president of the Gi Family Corporation. Shaking the young woman's hand enthusiastically, President Yao said he had heard so much about her and was absolutely delighted to meet her. Yao Guang directly asked if he had truly sold them those microchips at such a low price, since it could not possibly cover his manufacturing costs. With a hearty laugh, he told her not to worry about those details. It was insignificant, not worth worrying about. Looking closely at Yao, Lin Fei frowned, asking why Emperor Shun's bracelet, which he always carried, was completely missing. Was missing from his wrist. The old man explained that the celestial being did not need to worry, for he had gifted it to his granddaughter, Yao Shiny, a sacred relic that kept their clan safe from absolute ruin. Clearing his throat awkwardly, the old man quietly added that his granddaughter would turn 26 this year, still remembering how Lin Fei once lifted her high above the clouds to marvel at the boundless heavens. 20 years had passed, but for her, this memory remained incredibly precious. She held on to it tightly. In fact, even when she was just a child, she had always insisted that she would marry Lin Fei. Honestly, nothing changed. With a faint smile, Lin Fei told him to tell his granddaughter not to overthink things and simply find a good husband instead. Mr. Yao stayed quiet, but secretly knew she would never do that. Not after she had already laid eyes on someone like Lin Fei. No other man could ever compare, gently touching the old man's forehead. Lin Fei tapped into his mystical power, he quietly told him. To leave the past completely behind and focus entirely on the present. With a gentle touch, he passed down an ancient spell called the Gate of Truth, which Lin Fei believed would protect him. Suddenly, Yao gasped in sheer confusion, as glowing symbols materialized around him, bordered by flickers of bright light. These were the legendary 7 candles of life extension, burning brighter. Lin Fei explained that the ancient master Zuolang once used this exact method. He had extended his own lifespan through this very ritual. Lin Fei could easily see that the old man had only 3 years left. So he decided to grant him 12 more years. Yao fell to his knees, tears streaming down his face as he muttered that he only did his duty. He felt utterly unworthy of receiving such immense grace from his lord. Looking him in the eyes, Lin Fei reminded him that he saved the Ji family from ruin and followed orders perfectly, fully earning this divine reward. But Lin Fei warned him sternly to keep one crucial detail in mind. Those candles must burn continuously for days, or the spell will fail completely. Bowing deeply, Yao promised to guard them with his very life. But wait, here is where we learn about a dark event from years ago. Back when Yao Shiny was a child, enemies tried to kidnap her for her lineage and steal her inner spiritual power. Hearing this terrible truth, Mr. Yao swore he would do whatever it takes to uncover the mastermind behind it. He even suspected the culprit might be one of Lin Fei's own disciples. Lin Fei was unsure, but they only had a single lead to follow. The kidnapper had used a specific sorcery spell during the attempt. Listening closely, the old man clasped his hands in deep respect, promising that the Yao family would investigate this dark mystery to the very end. Long before the morning sun could paint the horizon with light, bizarre events were already starting to unfold over at the Sun family's villa. Leaping effortlessly over this heavily guarded perimeter wall, a fair-haired intruder. The assassin rushed toward the target he had to eliminate. Today he wore the cologne Wumeline wore, having practiced her exact mannerisms thousands of times to look just like her. Now, the moment to strike had finally arrived. Approaching the room of the Sunna elders, the attacker muttered that there was nothing personal about this. The old patriarch only had himself to blame. Sensing another presence in the quiet room, the elder realized he was not alone. Terrified, the old man leaped from his seat and demanded to know who was there. Silence was his only answer. Suddenly, a massive, threatening fist loomed before him. A heavy blow slammed right into his gut, making Mr. Sun violently cough up blood from severe internal damage. Hearing the scream, Sun Anhao charged into the room. He frantically demanded answers, but no one said a single word. His eyes locked onto his grandfather, who lay completely still. The old man was drenched in blood, looking like a hollow doll, a mere shell. Devastated by the sight, the young man completely missed seeing the fleeing attacker. Glaring at his bodyguards, the young master ordered them to chase down and capture the bastard who had dared touch his grandfather. Right then, Sun Ha's father burst inside, looking completely panicked. He panicked, screaming that they must get to a hospital or find help. He suggested calling Tainu's mentor, but looking up, Sun Anhao shook his head. With tears streaming down, he whispered that his grandfather was already gone. However, the young heir noticed a lingering spirit trail left behind. The spiritual trace pointed directly to Wuyin. It had to be her doing. Right then, the young man swore a blood oath against the Ji family. He vowed to tear them all down, unable to rest until they paid. Wiping tears from his glasses, his father begged him to stay calm. Blind rage would only lead to ruin. They needed to call the police. Or even better, they should contact the precinct chief directly. At the break of dawn, a heavily armed police squad surrounded the G. Family mansion, claiming a dangerous suspect was hiding inside the house. Ordering everyone to evacuate, they woke Yeong from her deep sleep. Rubbing her eyes at the flashing squad lights, she assumed it was a dream. There was no logical reason for the authorities to raid her family home. But the cold, harsh reality quickly shattered her comforting delusions. Panic set in as she looked out. Meanwhile, Mr. Sun approached. Chief Wang warning him that the culprit might attempt to escape. They had to keep him cornered. Hearing this, the chief made his move. He immediately ordered his men to smash through the front gates. Standing around waiting was useless, so they decided to use a battering ram. A police cruiser accelerated, aiming directly at the heavy metal gates. They clearly had zero intention of waiting for a polite invitation. Under the crushing impact, the security fence gave way completely. Debris scattered across the courtyard. At that exact moment, Lin Fei walked out, deeply curious about who was causing such a scene, and why they decided to disrupt his family peace at this ungodly hour. Chief Huan wondered what caused the commotion. Seeing someone step out of the mansion, Chief Huan panicked. If those massive iron doors crushed Lin Fei, they would kill him, leaving the chief to blame. Right in front of Lin Fei, Wu Mullen leaped forward, determined to save her mentor from the crushing weight of the door before it killed him. With a single strike of her heavy fist, the young girl stopped the falling door instantly, preventing a total disaster. She shoved the door aside, and it crashed down with a deafening bang. Chief Huan watched in shock, wondering how any ordinary person could perform such wild miracles. Closing his eyes with a sigh, Lin Fei told her that heroism was not necessary since he could easily handle this himself. Just then, Sun Hao stepped forward, shouting to Chief Huan that she used the exact same martial arts technique that murdered his grandfather, ordering everyone to draw their weapons. Chief Huan instantly aimed his gun at them, and his officers quickly did the same. Wu Mullen stood there, completely confused. Worried about the situation, Yao Guang demanded an explanation for what was happening, telling the officers there must be a huge misunderstanding. Chief Huan coldly informed her that her personal bodyguard, Wu Mullen, was the prime suspect in a brutal murder case. He had to detain her immediately. Sun Hao then accused them of ordering the girl to commit the crime. Our friends were absolutely shocked to hear of any death. Sun Hao thought they were playing him for a fool and prepared to lunge at them, but his father quickly held him back, warning him not to start a fight in front of the police. Chief Huan explained that the elderly master was murdered in his bed, killed by a single devastating blow. He added that according to the grieving family, their families had an active feud, giving Yao Guang a clear motive. Defending her bodyguard, Yao Guang declared that Wu Mullen had been right. By her side all night, there was absolutely no way she could have been involved in the crime. However, this did not convince Chief Huan, who dismissed her alibi as complete nonsense. He then turned to Wu Mullen directly, asking if she wore Coco Chanel perfume. The girl froze, her shocked expression giving away the truth instantly. She could not comprehend how this random cop knew such private details. Sun Hao grew even more furious, shouting that this was the exact scent left in his grandfather's bedroom after the killer fled the scene. Holding back a massive sigh of frustration, Lin Fei stepped in, asking if they had considered that someone deliberately framed her. Anyone could have used the scent, but Sun Hao rejected this, declaring the evidence was absolute and that Lin Fei was merely protecting his accomplice, proving that they were working together all along. Realizing it was useless to argue with these people, Lin Fei agreed that Wu Mullen should go with them for now. He knew that since she was innocent, the truth would easily come out. Hearing his calm words, Yao Guang instantly felt her worries melt away. Lin Feng spoke with such calm authority that Yang immediately felt reassured, so she stood by as they led her friend away, even though watching the handcuffed girl was completely unbearable. Looking at Yuan, our hero gently reassured her that everything would be okay. He promised her that as long as he stood by her, no jail could ever hold her. They both knew she was entirely innocent. Looking at her, it was clear that the poor girl was trying her absolute best to stay strong, showing incredible resilience. She even managed a faint smile, saying she trusted her friends and knew they would help her. Once her friend was gone, Yang turned to him, asking what they should do next. She was absolutely certain that the powerful Sun family would not just stop there. They would demand the absolute harshest sentence and force the police to close the case. And as quickly as possible. Meanwhile, our hero was practically certain that the Sun family would accuse Yang of being the one who had given the order to her bodyguard, meaning she could face criminal charges too. After thinking for a moment, he decided to make a quick call, worried he would have to handle this matter personally. Noticing that he was dialing, Yang watched him closely, wondering who was on the line. She asked who this Jiang person was and how he could possibly help them right now. But when Lin Feng calmly mentioned that he was dialing the personal number of the police chief Jiang Tinling, she gasped in pure shock, though to be fair, she should really stop being surprised by his insane connections. Right away, the chief answered. He immediately guessed that the Celestial Master was calling him regarding the recent case involving Yuan, which had just arrived at the Central Police Department. The case was already causing a major stir, and he asked if she was truly innocent. Our hero was 100% certain that Yuan had absolutely nothing to do with the crime. She was clearly being framed by the Dark Knight Syndicate. This heavy accusation caught the police chief completely off guard, as he had not even suspected that a ruthless criminal gang was pulling the strings here. But for Lin Feng, this was just the beginning of his true agenda. He had no intention of stopping now. Jiang promised a thorough investigation, but warned that their time was strictly limited if they did not find the real. If the criminal is not found within 2 weeks, Yuan will end up behind bars. Hearing this, Lin Feng replied that 2 weeks was plenty of time. All he needed from the chief was the surveillance footage near the Sun estate. Jiang sighed, knowing that was a massive mountain of data to sift through. And since the culprit had actively tried to cover their tracks, finding anything useful in that footage would be almost completely unrealistic. Even so, the chief agreed to help, knowing better than to question the master's direct command. After they hung up, the chief nervously lit a cigarette, already dreading the massive workload waiting for him over the next few days. He truly believed that his superior was always right and must be obeyed. Leaning back in his chair, the chief nervously lit a cigarette, already picturing the massive mountain of work waiting for him over the next few days. Later, he visited his boss, confidently declaring that they would finally succeed in capturing the elusive criminal known as the Nightmare, especially since they now had the help of the esteemed Celestial Master. But suddenly, a devastating tragedy struck, completely overshadowing his moment of triumph. Catching the elusive criminal, he entered. There, he saw a huge block of ice. A girl was trapped inside, while his boss wept. Uncontrollably, he cried out to his granddaughter, but silence answered him. She was gone, his face hardening. The old man lit a cigarette. A vow of absolute vengeance took root. He would destroy them all. Every single accomplice would pay. Meanwhile, the Sun Mansion was in chaos. Nobody understood the police chief's delay. Why not close the case? Instead, he ordered a massive, full-scale investigation into their affairs. Foaming with absolute rage, the young heir made a wild claim. It was Wu Molan, only she held such a bitter, burning grudge. To quiet his hysterical son, the family patriarch offered a dark solution. He told him to contact his mentor, Tao Yinu. Blood demands blood. Only death can wash this away. Meanwhile, things were incredibly quiet elsewhere. At the Ji family estate, Lin Fei casually suggested a chess match. She declined with a soft smile, admitting she was no master of the game. But this peaceful idyll did not last. Suddenly, a car roared toward the estate. Plunging through the broken fence, the vehicle sped forward with Sun Eunhao driving. His eyes were bloodshot, showing he was right on the verge of madness. Screaming like a lunatic, he vowed that everyone who wronged him would die. He slammed the gas. The car lunged straight for our heroes. Blood dripped slowly from a fresh, deep wound right above his eyebrow. He ignored it entirely, laughing maniacally as if victory was already his. He screamed that it was over and they were going straight to hell. But here is the twist: this entire setup was just a sick delusion. In reality, Sun Eunhao was sitting in the car while his mentor stepped out. The spectacular deaths were just a fantasy, but his physical wounds were real. The dull ache in his head constantly reminded him of his previous failure. The young master had indeed tried to run over Lin Fei and the girl. But they survived. His broken brain only imagined that crash to feel better. Lin Fei watched him, knowing this punk needed a serious reality check. If he did not break him now, the trouble would never end. No more games. Lin Fei released a massive wave of spiritual energy. It froze the attacker instantly, locking him in his own body. Feeling this terrifying pressure, Sun Eunhao felt a cold shiver of dread. Was this monster even human, or was he some kind of god? Lin Fei did not give him a single moment to breathe. He grabbed Sun Eunhao, slamming his face violently into the solid ground. Concrete shattered, the arrogant young master lay drenched in blood. His consciousness faded into complete darkness, but just as he was blacking out. At that exact moment, the young heir's mentor decided to make his entrance. He kicked the car door clean off, announcing his arrival. Our hero immediately noticed this newcomer was absolutely desperate to join the fight. The newcomer did not even bother opening the door like a civilized person. Instead, he hurled the heavy metal door directly at Lin Fei's head. But it didn't hurt him at all. He had already activated a strong magical barrier. Protected him, Master Tao Yin kept slowly closing in, declaring, with a threatening voice, that the boy must release his disciple, or else he would grind him into dust, leaving absolutely nothing behind. Kicking Sun, who was already sprawling on the ground, Lin Fei asked who gave Master Tao Yin the right to talk to him like that. This made the master so furious that he completely lost control of himself, unleashing his blazing fiery energy and charging straight at the kid, but the strike never landed because the young man blocked it with such raw power that the old master coughed up his own blood. After that, Lin Fei turned around and walked away, telling Tao Yin to crawl out of his sight and never dare to act so arrogant again. The crowd stood completely stunned by the kid's unreal power. As Sun Hao slowly crawled back to his master, the old man asked Lin Fei if he was truly just a teacher. Looking down at them, our hero scoffed and said that paltry title was beneath him, given his absolute knowledge and power. These grand claims shocked Hao Yinu, who simply could not comprehend how some random youth could call a master's title petty. He thought the kid had gone insane. Suddenly, Lin Fei's magic shattered nearby objects to intimidate his opponents. When he warned them they had better apologize and get lost immediately, nobody dared to make him say it twice. Setting the chairs back, Lin Fei warned his enemies to move fast, or else he might change his mind, and then they would truly be finished. Bowing deeply to the youth sitting across from him, Tao Yin apologized, saying it was just a temporary misunderstanding and they deeply regretted it, but these were empty words. In reality, the old snake only wanted to get close enough to launch a deadly surprise attack. He channeled energy directly at the meridian points, controlling Lin Fei's body, and if the strike landed, the boy would be completely paralyzed. Cackling aloud, this master mocked the kid, asking what he would do after being struck by 100 poisonous needles. Would he simply die from all that venom? Hearing this, Yao Guang froze in absolute shock, while our hero did not even flinch, calmly asking, "Is this how masters use meridian acupuncture these days?" The chilling realization that this boy not only knew his secret technique, but also its exact effects left the master completely rattled. The kid was perfectly fine and still breathing. Right then, the battered Sunhouse spoke up, begging his master to let him finish off the enemy himself. The master gladly agreed, confident that Lin Fei was already paralyzed from the deadly toxins, but at the last second, Sun Hao cooked up a much nastier plan. Smirking, he approached Yao Guang, who immediately realized she was in serious trouble, and she was right to worry because the coward planned to hurt her right before Lin Fei's eyes, proving that he was completely powerless to protect her. Laughing, Tao Yin thoroughly enjoyed his student's cruelty and told him to go ahead and do whatever he pleased with her. But their sick little plan immediately fell apart because despite all their predictions, Lin Fei was not only moving freely, but he managed to strike that single strike terrified the scoundrel. Absolutely helpless, he held his shattered arm and sobbed, while Lin Fei slowly walked toward him. Quietly, our hero spoke, "Prepare for true pain," then he struck the coward hard on the leg, snapping it backward with a loud crack. Bones shattered instantly. He shrieked in total pure agony, no escape. Choking on his own tears and blood, speaking was impossible. Recoiling in sheer terror, Tao Yinu demanded to know how this was possible. Lin Fei had been pierced by 100 poisonous needles. The lethal venom should have completely paralyzed him, yet pointing directly at those needles, our hero claimed they were totally harmless. Even 100,000 of them would not scratch him. Talon realized instantly that he stood zero chance against this absolute monster, so he abandoned his student, running off to beg Shu for help. But get this, our main character had no intention of letting him escape. Not after the vile plans they made against Yao Guang. With zero hesitation or regret, Lin Fei sent those exact needles flying right back into the body of the coward who threw them. Needles pierced flesh, and blood sprayed from his mouth as he coughed. He survived the strike, but his meridians were now permanently destroyed. This was exactly what Lin Fei wanted. Death was too easy. Stripping the man of all his hard-earned cultivation was a far better punishment. With the master broken, Lin Fei slowly turned his gaze towards Sun Hao. The young man whimpered miserably, begging our hero to stay away. His body felt completely paralyzed, like it did not even belong to him. Terrifying waves of magical energy burst violently from Lin Fei. The pressure was insane. He told Sun Hao he initially wanted to spare him. But seeing the horrific acts he nearly committed against his beloved Yao Guang changed everything. Now he was fully prepared to take the scoundrel's life. Suddenly, Yao Guang interrupted, warning that killing him would solve nothing. If they executed him, the real mastermind would escape cleanly. Lin Fei paused. She was right. Murder would make him no better. So he commanded Sun Hao to take his master and get out. Watching them flee, he warned that nobody would thank her for this. Instead, people would probably just call her a hypocrite. But Yao Guang did not care. Their families were once very close. She honestly still felt sympathy for them, but his cold words stung. The warning weighed heavily on her mind. After a few tense seconds, she quietly asked if Lin Fei truly believed she was simply too kind. Using his spiritual power, he casually tossed the heavy vehicle completely out of sight. "Kindness is great," he replied, "but some people simply do not deserve it. Often, those spared will only return to strike you down later." Suddenly, she realized he let Sun Hao go to teach her a lesson. And indeed he did. Lin Fei still remembered his lost love. He knew her excessive mercy caused the ultimate tragedy 3,000 years ago. A sudden sound abruptly cut through his thoughts, snapping him back. She immediately asks her next question, if he did not feel the poison initially. Why did he even pretend he could not move? looking closely at the young lady. Our hero replies that it was actually pretty interesting, allowing him to see what opponents would do when he was weak, but risking his own. Life and health do not sound fun to Yo Guang at all, and she considers this guy an absolute madman, though she still notes the deep wisdom in his words. Sensing her doubts, Lin Fei points out that if someone were to live for 200 million years, the world would seem incredibly boring, and any form of entertainment would be incredibly rare. Meanwhile, Sun Hao and his mentor head back home completely battered and in a deeply depressed mood, so Mr. Sun begins asking what went wrong since Wu has already been arrested. Gritting his teeth in pure anger, the boy explains it is all because of Lin Fei, who surprisingly turns out to be way stronger than Wu. Hearing this, Ta Yanu slams his fist on the chair. He furiously roars that this worthless brat has destroyed his meridians. He will not rest until sending him straight to the afterlife. Meanwhile, everyone in town is already reading the news that the powerful sage Tao Chen will soon arrive, demanding that Lin Fei apologize within 3 days. Needless to say, all these dramatic headlines do not affect Lin Fei in the slightest, and do not trouble him at all. He knows perfectly well that the truth is on his side. Yo Guang, however, is clearly not thrilled. She feels that some kind of lawlessness is happening, wondering if Tao Chen even understands the rules anymore. Smiling calmly, our hero explains a simple truth to her, that the ultimate guarantee of any law has always been absolute power, and if someone is not afraid of basic weapons, they simply do not care about obeying rules. Of course, these words heavily alarm the girl, who asks with clear worry in her voice if Lin Fei has any actual plan of action at all. Shaking his head, the young man replies that he has not even thought about it yet. Honestly, who can blame her? Girl, since she assumes her bodyguard will easily handle the problem as usual. Meeting her anxious gaze, the young man says that to fight someone like him, you do not need to think. If this guy dares show up, he will simply crush him. This wild declaration right here is what becomes the top breaking news of the day. Everyone online is talking about Lin Fei claiming he can easily destroy the legendary sage Tao Chen. Most people think the guy is totally out of his mind and insanely arrogant to challenge Tao Chen, living legend whom everyone respects. Reading all of this online, Sun Hao is absolutely furious because these self-assured statements drive him completely insane and throw him off balance. When the sage finally arrives at the Sun family estate, he immediately demands answers, since he has never heard of such crazy arrogance. Assuming that total chaos is now ruling the martial arts masters of Lotus City, he decides to summon every single master in the city and orders that all respected families be notified if anyone dares skip this meeting. He promises to pay a personal, highly destructive visit to their homes. This news surprises Sun Hao because he does not expect the wise master to actually decide to gather every single powerhouse of the city together in one place. Frankly, he is not too excited about crossing paths with the B family, who have 2 massive powerhouses masters, or with the Ye family, who were supposed to arrive from Mount Qing. Chung, shrugging, the old man asked what 3 weaklings could possibly do. He also ordered the young man to gather representatives from other top families, specifically representatives from the Qingbai and Gi families. Glancing over Tao, Qin asked his protege what he thought would happen once they actually won. Who gets their wealth? The answer was obvious, but the disciple still struggled. So the teacher explained that all these massive benefits were meant for him, a direct reward for all the hardships he endured. Meanwhile, a very peaceful morning began at the G family mansion, with nobody disturbing our hero, as he quietly enjoyed his morning tea. But that peace suddenly shattered. He read the shocking headlines. The legendary sage Tao Qian had officially challenged him to a duel, demanding that every local master be present. Naturally, Lin Fei was pretty surprised. Who wouldn't be, getting a sudden death match? He did not understand the fuss. After all, who actually wants to die? Certainly not in front of a massive crowd. Just then, Song Hao arrived. He announced his master's ultimatum if Lin Fei severed his own meridians, and begged for his forgiveness, his life would be spared. But instead, Lin Fei unleashed his crushing energy, his massive aura flaring as he ordered the intruders to get out. The pressure was so incredibly heavy that they were nearly blown away by the shockwave, struggling to stand still. Realizing only a true sage could stop this, Tao Yanu panicked completely. He grabbed young Master Sun's wheelchair, and they scrambled to escape quickly. But as they fled, the dark-haired cultivator screamed out a final threat. Lin Fei could only enjoy his pathetic life for a couple more days. Once those pests finally cleared out, Lin Fei relaxed until his phone rang. It was Police Chief Zhang Tanlin, who was still holding Wuolin in custody. Lin Fei immediately asked if there was any real progress with the investigation, especially since he wanted his bodyguard Yao Wang released as soon as possible. However, the chief explained they were facing massive data processing problems. The overwhelming volume of surveillance files required far too much manual manpower. Their computer recognition software was highly limited, making analysis extremely difficult. Hearing the complaints that the entire station was in absolute chaos, Lin Fei reminded them he only wanted the surveillance footage gathered. Then he decided it would just be faster to speak in person. Down at the station, the officers were incredibly curious about who their boss was waiting for, especially since he insisted on meeting them personally. They assumed the wealthiest tycoon in the Southwest was coming to see them. But when a simple young man stepped out and ordered their boss to show him the evidence immediately, the whole room went completely silent. Once our hero was led into the office, he saw two officers glued to their monitors with deep dark circles under their eyes. He wondered how many sleepless nights they had put in, feeling pretty sorry for them. He decided to send them straight home. The chief praised their hard work, thanking them for their dedicated service. The men stood up from their workstations and with tired sighs left the room. Taking his seat, Lin Fei asked Zhang to display every recording on the available monitors. This request sent the man into total shock, since managing 16 screens at once was just impossible. Do not worry about that, the young man added. On top of that, use need to crank up the playback speed 36 times. Once his demands were met, his eyes closed. He focused his magic monitors. This action let him literally absorb the information. At one point, his eyes snapped open as he ordered them to slow down the playback. On the 7 specific screens, done everything just as the celestial being demanded, Jung Tanling asked anxiously if anything was wrong, but no, was not the case. Our hero had spotted a clue and was ready to test his theory. He asked the operator to zoom in on a specific image, showing a man in a long beige coat and matching hat, totally hidden features. He had seen him 3 times. Entered a building right across from the Sun estate. Lin Fei was absolutely certain he was after Grandpa Sun's room. Staring closely at the screen, the youth said he would bet anything that beneath those dark glasses, the suspect was wearing heavy makeup. Why? Because that let him bypass facial recognition. Incredibly clever. Such insane attention to detail immediately caught the eye of the police chief, who wanted to know where Lin Fei saw him first. Explained that their first encounter was on Mount Qingcheng. Back then, the traveler seemed harmless. Back then, nobody paid him any mind. Celestial being could easily recall someone he had met only once. Mr. Zhen promised to immediately hunt for his file, but our hero knew there was no file on a ghost like this. Scanner search is best. Track him down using facial recognition, then leave the rest to him. Finally, the fateful day arrived. Azure Coast Square, and you could feel the bloodlust in the air. The sage Tao Chen was informed that every single noble family had arrived. Only Lin Fei was missing. Some wanted to search. For him, the sage refused. We wait. When the boy finally arrived, they would crush him like a pathetic. Bug young master somehow bowed politely, smiling. He was ready to announce the start of their epic duel. But Baijan immediately interrupted him, claiming, Sun Hao was simply far too weak to face the city's strongest fighters. Therefore, Tao Chen must step in. This blatant disrespect infuriated the young master. He gritted his teeth in absolute fury. He wanted to destroy the redhead, to keep the peace though. Tao Chen agreed to fight. Since the crowd wanted him, he would not refuse, telling the young man to step aside. With that, the Grandmaster leaped forward, shocking everyone. He quickly makes his way to the dead center of the square, making sure everyone can see him. He wants every single person here to hear his voice clearly. The old man starts by saying they all know exactly why they are here today. If they choose to accept his guidance and follow him as the ultimate medicine master, incredible rewards await them. But then the crowd gasps in sheer disbelief. The sage announces he has plenty of the miraculous pills to go around. These are the exact same pills that gave him such insane power. While some are ready to jump at the offer, others are completely unimpressed. They are already strong, proud, and highly respected martial artists on their own. Realizing his pitch did not win everyone over, Tao Qin speaks up again. He challenges them. If anyone disagrees, they can step up and fight him. That is when Baju, the second master of the elite Bai family, stands right up. He suggests they put the perfect sage's grand claims to a real physical test. He wants to see if those proud words actually match up with reality. By the time our heroes reach the scene, the fight is already underway. The second master Baju is already clashing with the old sage, using everything he has. Baju activates his energy, manifesting a thick, swirling barrier of protective air. This shield keeps him perfectly safe from any incoming attacks. Yakwang recognizes him instantly because that signature protective aura is impossible to mistake. Rumor has it that not even a direct gunshot can break his ultimate defense. But Lin Fei just shakes his head, quietly telling her that the man is already doomed. The sage clearly holds the upper hand. Meanwhile, Baju swings his arm to strike. He warns Tao Qin that they are both sitting at the exact same master level. He shouts that the old sage should not dare underestimate the Bai family. But the old sage just scoffs, claiming master ranks are divided into tiers. He looks down on Baju, calling him nothing but a weakling compared to himself. Naturally, these insults only trigger Baju's rage, and he charges forward with full power. He intends to crush the old man with a flurry of precise, deadly strikes. But the sage quickly summons a thick, stone-like barrier to shield himself. Baju is completely baffled. How can his strongest attacks fail to break this shell? They are supposed to be equal in power, yet he cannot even scratch it. Once the dust settles, the sage lowers his shield, revealing his true secret. He is wearing glowing golden armor that covers his entire upper body. With a single swift strike, he unleashes raw power that sends Baju flying. The master crashes backwards several meters. The agony is so intense he can barely breathe. He starts violently coughing up dark blood, and trust me, that is a terrible sign. The entire crowd is left completely speechless by this sudden turn of events. Nobody can wrap their heads around how the great master fell so easily. That single blow proved the old sage is on a completely different level. He could easily force all the local masters to submit, spreading his arms. Tao Qin triumphantly announces that those who choose to stand by his side will achieve massive prosperity, but anyone foolish enough to defy him will surely meet their end. He demands to know who else dares to challenge him. Suddenly, the young master Song interrupts, pointing a finger out toward the crowd. He loudly announces that Lin Fei has finally arrived. The old sage turns around. The sage sneered that he was a complete nobody, demanding he get on his knees immediately. Bow down 3 times if you want any hope of mercy, but our young hero kept quiet, calmly walking through the crowd as the onlookers began to whisper, calling him pretty brave for not fleeing the city and coming straight here instead, even though it meant certain death. Meanwhile, Lin Fei looked closely at the old man. Lin Fei calmly noted that the elder had not yet perfected his 5 elements barrier. But he would accept the fight since the old guy was so eager to die. But their incredibly tense exchange was suddenly cut short. Another senior master stepped into the center of the crowded square, asking Tao Xian why he was picking deadly fights with people so much younger. Swinging his blade, the newcomer asked if Tao Xian would deny him a real challenge. Or was he too afraid to test his highly praised combat skills? The sage paused, then smirked, saying he had long heard of this man's fame. The first-rate swordsmanship of Mount Xingchang was famous, and today, he would finally have the chance to witness those skills with his own eyes. Eager to prove himself, the gray-haired master immediately unleashed his ultimate sword techniques. Using every secret move he had mastered over his long life, yet his strikes, which were normally incredibly devastating, did absolutely nothing. Tao Xian just smirked, mocking him for such a weak performance. He expected far more from a renowned master. Now, it was Tao Xian's turn to strike. Laughing, he channeled his energy, turning his golden armor a fierce crimson color. Searing red flames began to crackle and burn wildly in his bare hands. Giving his opponent absolutely no room to counter, the sage lunged forward. The gray-haired master realized instantly that a devastating blow was coming. An unavoidable attack, Tao Xian unleashed his roaring scarlet flames straight ahead, aiming to incinerate the old master completely, leaving not a single trace behind. The brutal firestorm hit its mark directly, completely engulfing the old master. Needless to say, he stood no chance against such overwhelming power. While his opponent collapsed, Tao Xian stood tall, overflowing with dominant energy. He mocked the entire city, claiming their fighters were incredibly weak. They could not even withstand a single, casual blow from him. He shouted for Master Lin to stop hiding like a coward. Instantly, our hero appeared beside the fallen elder, asking if the sage was looking for him. The crowd gasped in shock, completely baffled by this young man's sudden appearance. Why was he acting like a fool instead of running to call his powerful master? Lin Fei ignored the whispers, calmly turning to the fallen elder's disciples, telling them to take care of their master while ignoring everyone else around him. Walking forward, he had almost reached the arrogant sage when a hand stopped him. Baijian stepped in, warning him to back off and protect his own life. Reminding Lin Fei that he was not the legendary Master Lin, her father quickly agreed, offering to buy some precious time while Lin Fei contacted his powerful teacher. Surely his teacher would save them, but others nearby were not so kind. Li demanded to know what kind of pathetic show the boy was putting on. Did he honestly believe he could trick everyone into thinking he was some grand master? But her father quickly snapped at her, commanding his daughter to shut her mouth. Tell him to watch his tongue, but completely ignoring everyone, Lin Fei steps forward. Right into the middle of the courtyard, he casually announces that if this grand master is talking about Master Lin, the teacher who taught Wuling, then yes, it is indeed him. Tao Chen chuckles smugly, declaring that the widely celebrated reputation of this grand master must be an absolute joke since he did not even bother to show up in person, sending a young kid to die in his place. But feeling the old man's energy, Lin Fei is actually pretty disappointed. Realizing the old sage is surprisingly weak, he calmly tells him he gets exactly 3 free attempts. Shots, the crowd is stunned. Is this kid a complete lunatic standing there? They wonder which sect he could possibly belong to and why he acts so cocky. Staring at her friend, Lu genuinely wonders if she has lost her mind too. Why else would she actively choose to walk straight into certain death against such a powerful sage? But seeing that Yao Guang did not just come along, but is actually backing up this suicidal guy and supporting him, she is utterly speechless at her friend's total stupidity. Lin Fei's sheer arrogance does not escape the old sage, who is now completely furious. Unleashing his beautiful scenery technique, he pools raw spiritual energy into his palm. He thrusts his hand forward, fully expecting to obliterate this incredibly cocky brat in an instant. One single, devastating blow, a strike meant to crush even the toughest warriors. Let alone a scrawny kid, but then everything goes completely sideways. As his flaming strike connects, a sudden wave of sheer, terrifying disbelief washes over him. It is a dark, heavy dread, signaling that something is terribly wrong. His thrusting palm, which felt so incredibly strong a second ago, hits a solid wall. He is met with an overwhelming pressure that snaps his hand right back. Tao Chen recoils in absolute agony, pulling his hand away from the kid immediately. Pain rips violently through his arm. Lin Fei just stands there. Our hero calmly points out that the old man is just feeling his own strike's recoil. He has not even moved yet. The old man still has 2 free shots left. Then he will strike back. The crowd is left completely paralyzed with shock. Nobody can believe their eyes. Could this kid actually be the legendary Master Lin? And this same horrifying realization hits Tao Chen right between the eyes. He freezes. He gathers every ounce of his remaining spiritual power and roars in fury. He screams that he will teach this arrogant brat a lesson he will never forget. No one looks down on a master in lives, but he has no idea what is coming. Things are about to go horribly wrong, staring at the fist rushing directly toward him. Lin Fei coldly mutters that the old man must try a lot harder. He should have shown some actual skill, watching him easily withstand the blows. Bai Baju turns to his brother, trembling as he mutters that this Lin Fei is truly monstrous. Just the shockwave from his 5 elements barrier is enough to shake the earth. Just the defensive shockwave alone is enough to knock the ground out from under them. Channeling his ultimate technique, Tao Chen screams that the boy has pushed him too far. He has completely forced his hand, and now there is absolutely no mercy left for him. Raging fire erupts around him, turning his entire body into a blinding spark. Of a massive blaze, he charges straight at Lin Fei, threatening to burn him. To absolute ashes, the blazing, devastating blow smashes directly and violently into Lin Fei's head. Tao Chen is absolutely certain that his opponent cannot possibly survive this, and was about to meet his end. Suddenly, a blinding explosion erupted. Everyone nearby shielded their eyes, desperate to see what actually happened. But they were completely blind. Most figured the poor kid was toast. But then a calm voice echoed right through the fading smoke. Lin Fei warned the old sage that he only had 1 shot left. That massive, world-shaking attack had been completely and utterly canceled out. The young man stood untouched. The crowd watched on in pure, unadulterated shock. People were just frozen in horror. Nobody could grasp how he survived a blast of that scale. A strike like that would have turned anyone else to dust. Suddenly, Baijan felt a cold sweat, remembering their very first encounter. He had treated Lin Fei like some lowly, no-name temple guard back then. Now he deeply regretted it. Meanwhile, Tao Qin knew he had to finish this. If he did not act fast, his entire reputation would be completely ruined. Desperate to stop any counterattack, the sage struck first. He summoned his ultimate water magic, throwing a massive wall at Lin Fei. The old man cackled, shouting that the boy was a total fool. He boasted that no one could ever break free from these water shackles. Sun Hao and his allies cheered in triumph, utterly thrilled by the sight. They mocked Lin Fei for letting his arrogance get the best of him. As the young man calmly reached out to touch the heavy barrier, the sage kept bragging about his indestructible 5 elements magic shield. But you should have seen the old man's face a second later. His face twisted in pure shock as Lin Fei broke right through. He shattered that absolute defense with just a single finger. Now, payback time. Lin Fei unleashed his real pressure and announced the test was over. The 3 free hits were up, and now the sage had to pay. The impact launched Tao Qin backward, but he trusted his golden armor. He thought a simple tap could never pierce his legendary defense. But the raw force of the strike cut straight through him. It forced a massive spray of dark blood right from his mouth. Shockwaves of whispers swept the crowd as they watched him stumble. Lin Fei had used just one basic move, yet the Grand Master was completely down for the count, utterly helpless on the dirt. His terrified disciples scrambled over to him, completely losing their minds. They had never once seen their supposedly invincible master look so completely broken. They asked if he was okay, but he could barely even find the strength to speak. Whispering that he was dying, he tried to activate his life-saving wood magic. He desperately triggered the tree energy awakening, trying to heal himself. But nothing worked, and blood kept spilling out of his mouth. This was a terrifying first for him, and he was completely panicking. Just then Lin Fei walked up and looked down with cold eyes. He told the old man to stop struggling because his cultivation was gone. Tao Yinu shrieked in terror, warning Lin Fei not to touch them. He yelled that they served the Grand Founder, who would destroy him. Reduce him to dust without breaking a sweat. Closing his eyes in irritation, Lin Fei admits he has no desire to kill, since Tao Qin brought this on himself. But he demands they deliver a warning from him straight to their leader. If their Grand Founder even attempts to make a move against him, then Lin Fei will not hesitate to wipe out their entire school. Tao Qin cannot even reply as his eyes roll back in defeat. Coughing up thick blood, it is obvious he is drawing his final breaths. As Lin Fei walks away, the city masters look on in absolute silence. They wonder if this youth is unbelievably powerful or just insane, daring to threaten a legendary founder all on his own. Meanwhile, Mr. Qingfen knows only the godlike Lin Fei could act this way. He is a living deity in their eyes, once they escape the staring crowd. Once they finally get away from the prying crowd, Yao Guang mutters that Lin Fei actually looked quite impressive during that intense showdown. This feeds his ego, prompting him to ask if she is catching feelings. She blushes instantly and looks away, denying everything with a pout. Quickly changing the subject, Yao Guang asks about a term he used. She wants to know what this master level actually means. Lin Fei explains that this rank is just the absolute bare minimum. It is barely a foundation for anyone trying to build real power. To a true powerhouse like him, those so-called masters are just insects. And honestly, he is not even exaggerating. Now things take a serious turn. Lin Fei asks who in the B family might want her dead. She thinks back on the three men, completely lost in thought. She admits there is no bad blood between her and that family. She simply cannot imagine them doing anything malicious to her. But his probing questions make her realize he definitely suspects something. He nods, telling her they just need to wait a little longer. Soon enough, the real enemy will surely expose their own identity. Back at the G mansion, the young man finally lets his guard down. Today's chaotic showdown will definitely shake things up across the entire city. The mysterious Dark Knight killer will be spooked and likely try to escape. If the chief cannot handle this, he will take matters into his own hands. Before he can plan his next move, a ringing phone breaks his train of thought. Answering it, he hears the voice of Chief Zhang Tianlin. Talk about perfect timing, the officer's voice sounds incredibly tense. He reports that the local Pixian County office just sent a lead. A dangerous, high-profile killer is currently hiding out inside Chinga village. Hearing this, Lin Fei instantly leaps up, ready for action. He promises to head over to the scene immediately to help bag the target. Meanwhile, at the village, an officer gasps in pure disbelief. He spots something that should be completely and physically impossible. He points it out, frantically urging his superior to take a quick look too. Lin Fei has just literally materialized right out of thin air. The chief warns him to keep his mouth shut and pretend he saw nothing. As Lin Fei steps inside, countless sharp spikes suddenly shoot toward him. They could easily impale him, but the young man stands completely unfazed. Activating his inner magical energy, he instantly halts the weapons midair. Not a single spike touches his skin, he is left completely unharmed. Seeing his trap fail and the police staying back, the blonde criminal gets suspicious. He creeps out from hiding to see exactly who just entered. But stepping out, he instantly freezes. His enemy is already behind him. He must react now. One wrong move and his life is over. Unleashing a swift martial arts strike, the blonde fighter aims to kill. He must quickly neutralize the intruder, who somehow got too close. He presses his knife right against Lin Fei's throat, but it fails. Lin Fei casually blocks the blade with a small, glowing energy barrier. He speaks calmly, he is only here to take his life. Instantly, a massive surge of magic blasts the blonde criminal backward. The force is intense, his weapon flies right out of his hand. He is completely unarmed. Outside, the police can only wait. Suddenly, a massive, loud crash echoes from deep inside the building. The officers start to worry about the seemingly fragile young man. But their worries are vain. The wall explodes and the criminal flies out. That fall should have killed him, but of course, our hero has other plans. Lin Fei uses his magic again, forcing the criminal to halt in midair. He freezes instantly. Despite his severe injuries, the villain is shocked. He realizes his opponent just channeled his inner power outward. Only a true grandmaster can attack like this, through open space. Lin Fei sighs, annoyed that people always underestimate his actual power. He has a few questions, that is why he is holding him. So they really should not waste any more of his precious time. The blonde man remains cocky. He demands a question of his own. He wants to know why someone strong enough to conquer the world would choose to protect a single woman instead of ruling everything.